Chapter 21. Dark Night. Seven Peaks Tournament was the most important event of Jade. Peak of Widows needed to find a place for several hundred additional disciples. If the Bamboo Peak disciples wanted to continue their relaxing day, it would be a silly dream. Except Hidi, the other 7 disciples were squeezed inside one room. In Peak of Widows, it was normally 4 disciples per room. 3 people were sleeping on the floor. It should be enough space for them, however, it would be slightly crowded. Suddenly, someone complained. Really, you guys kept saying how good the main house is. Now they asked 7 of us to squeeze in one room, so stingy. 6th, stop complaining. If other Shishong hear this, that will not be good. 2nd Shishong, you're sleeping on a bed, of course it is comfortable. But I am sleeping on a freezing floor, why don't we switch positions? Z's, what, you fall asleep all of a sudden, and snore. Z, HMPH, ah, 4th Shishong, you are always so handsome, humor, intelligent. Z, what is that, is it really popular to fall asleep instantly nowadays? Shishong, you are always so kind, how could you let your Shidi? Z, you, 3rd Shishong. Roar roar. They were surprised. Suddenly, the wall shook, someone shouted angrily from the next room, hey, does everyone in Bamboo Peak snore that loud? The room immediately fell silent. After a while, someone giggled. Then, the previous voice began to speak again, 5th Shishong, you. What you? I am sleeping right next to you. You want to switch places? I don't care, we are both sleeping on the floor, anyway. Ahem, nothing. Alas, the floor is cold, which is already bad enough, the worst part is that there is too little space. It's impossible to be comfortable when sleeping. Xiao Shidi is fine, his body is exactly right for the size. 6th Shishong, why do you talk with your eyes closed? Don't you see a dog and a monkey are fighting for my spot, now? I am the most crowded, yet you still say I am the most comfortable. But I am still, shut up, 6th, they shouted all at once. After dark, many disciples went for a walk, amazed by the beautiful Peak of Widows. But, as it was getting late, many people went back to their room. As darkness arrived at this sky-reaching peak, in the clear sky, the moon shone on the mountain. Just when Sha Danan was sleeping deeply, he felt something move next to him. He opened his dreamy eyes and found Ash and Big Yellow were missing. He sat up and saw Big Yellow's figure run past the door. Ash was sitting on his back. Sha Danan was curious. He wondered where the dog and monkey were going at such a late hour in the night. He quietly got up and randomly grabbed some clothes. As he went to the door, under the moonlight, he saw Big Yellow carrying Ash towards Cloud Sea. Sha Danan remembered Xavion had told him that direction was to Peak of Widow's kitchen. Big Yellow lived for hundreds of years, already a cultivated dog, but still so greedy. He turned and wanted to go back to sleep, but then, he thought it would be embarrassing if someone saw Bamboo Peak's Big Yellow and Ash went to steal food. So, he decided to chase them back. Once he had made the decision, he saw Big Yellow and Ash had already become a blurry figure. He quickly chased after them. He went swiftly and cautiously to avoid disturbing other people. When he got to Cloud Sea, Big Yellow and Ash were already gone. Under the shine of the cold moon, the clouds softly floating, like veins and smoke. Just when he was heading toward the kitchen, suddenly, there was something that caused his heart to beat heavily. At the opposite side of the kitchen, between the clouds, there was a slim figure walking to the Rainbow Bridge. Sha Danan stared at that figure. Even from far away, that figure had deeply engraved on his heart. He could easily recognize it was Hidi Shiji. Night, so dark, why had she walked out here alone and where is she going? Sha Danan stood still, he was not sure what to do. Thousands of thoughts rushed into his brain. He could already guess what it is, but he just didn't want to admit it. He turned toward the kitchen where Big Yellow and Ash had went. He walked as he kept telling himself, Sha Danan, don't step into other people's business. Those 7 steps, the moon shone down on this lonely youngster, then, he stopped, raised his head and looked at the cold moon. His lips moved. After a moment, he turned back and ran to where the figure had disappeared. Heidi's figure already vanished within the Cloud Sea. But Sha Danan ran toward Rainbow Bridge without looking in the other direction. Very soon, he was at Rainbow Bridge. The water rippled on both sides of the bridge and reflected the moon in the sky. All Sha Danan cared about now is running. Run, run, run. As he was running across the rainbow bridge, he didn't see anyone's figure. When he reached the end of the bridge, he saw a beautiful figure was staring at the water of the pond. The moon had shone on the pond as bright as day. A sudden indescribable fear rose in Sha Danan's mind. He only knew he could not be seen by his Shiji. He found a small grove at the right side of the pond near the bridge. He quietly hid there and watched Hidi from the shadows. This was almost as it was eternity. Under the moonlight, near the green pond, that young lady had a bit of sorrow, a bit of loneliness. Her eyelashes were dropped. She appeared to be waiting. The wind passed by next to her, blocked the breath, stopped the sound, waved her lapel and hair. In the depths of Sha Danan's heart, there was a gentle feeling rising. It seemed like the lady there was the person whom he should protect with his life. He would do anything for her without hesitation and regret. That moment, he wished it could be eternity. Ling Shimei. Suddenly, a call came from Rainbow Bridge. Hidi turned, her eyes were filled with happiness. Her lips smiled. Qi Shishang, you are here. Sha Danan's heart felt like it had broken, but he didn't feel any pain. The entirety of his heart was empty but repeated the words, Qi Shishang, Qi Shishang, Qi Shishang. He turned his head toward the Rainbow Bridge. A person came down. It was Kevern. Kevern walked quickly to Hidi, gently said, sorry. My shittas love to fool around, so they went to sleep really late, made you wait a long time. Hidi held a bit of anger in her heart. But, as she saw Kevern, the anger was gone. She shook her head and smiled. Doesn't matter, I didn't wait for long. She stopped, looked at the pond, said, but why do we need to meet here? Today, Master Spirit suddenly got mad. I am still a little afraid of him. Kevern laughed. That was nothing. I heard my master say Master Spirit was just playing, everything was alright. Compared to this morning, isn't it much more quiet at night? Hidi blushed, lowered her head, we secretly meet like this. I don't know if this is alright. Kevern looked at her beautiful face, softly said, Ling Shimei, from 2 years ago when we first met, I kept thinking about you. It made it difficult to go to sleep. My mind was filled with your figure. Hidi bit her lip. Her face was getting more red. She didn't seem angry, but sweet. Kevern said again, Ling Shimei, I. Hidi suddenly raised her head, said, Qi Shishang, you can call me Ling. Then, she lowered her head, whispered, my dad and mom call me that. Kevern seemed like he didn't believe his ears, then he asked, really, Ling? Hidi took out a small box. She stared at the ground. It seemed like it took all her courage to quietly say, I had carried this, refresh bead, with me for the past 2 years. She didn't dare to look at Kevern. But after a long time, Kevern didn't say anything. Hidi was curious and peeked at Kevern. He was smiling, with an indescribable happiness. They looked at each other for a long time, then, they opened their arms and embraced. The moon shone upon them, shone upon the bushes, but couldn't shine upon the dark corner. The couple were whispering some sweet words until Kevern said the moon had passed the east sky, then he said, Ling, it's late now. We better return. If people found out we were here, it won't be good. Hidi nodded. They looked at each other and smiled. Kevern took Heidi's hand and slowly walked toward Rainbow Bridge. The moon shone on the couple. After a while, they disappeared on the Rainbow Bridge. The night, it became more sorrowful. Within the bushes, within the shadow, Sha Danan slowly came out, stared at the pond. Watching the moon in the water, swaying with the waves of water. He wanted to cry, but, in the end, he didn't. The pain in his heart like a mad beast ramming wildly, creating wounds everywhere. However, he grit his teeth, didn't say anything. It was like back to 5 years ago. That time, he lost everything, except Bei by his side. The world had completely changed. Tonight, at this moment, only he alone was facing it all by himself. Roar. A low roar, like the snore of a beast, came from behind. Sha Danan was awoken from his mixed feelings. He turned and was frightened by what he saw. The Jade celestial beast, Master Spirit, the giant water Kirin silently appeared very close behind him. It lowered its head, its eyes almost touched his body. Perhaps Sha Danan was so dead that he didn't notice it. Sha Danan saw Water Kirin's mountain-sized body was in front of him. Its fangs shone under the moonlight. He stepped back and tripped over a rock. His clothes were already messy. Something fell out from his clothes when he tripped. Both Sha Danan and Water Kirin looked down. In between them, a black, fire stick, was laying on the ground peacefully. The eyes of Water Kirin reflected Sha Danan and the ugly fire stick. Sha Danan's mind kept shouting, "Run, run, hurry!" But in front of the Water Kirin, no matter how hard he wanted to run away, his pair of legs were like they did not belong to him. It sat there and did not move. Water Kirin looked at Sha Danan for a moment, then it turned its attention to the fire stick. The giant beast fixed its eyes on the dark fire stick. Its eyes examined the stick from top to bottom. Its large head turned in circles but still couldn't figure anything out. Then, it carefully touched the fire stick with its front claw. Sha Danan was stunned by what he saw. Although he was still scared by the giant beast, he was curious, did Master Spirit go crazy due to its thousands of years of age, or is it just like Big Yella, still an old child, and was interested in a fire stick? Water Kirin's claw touched the fire stick, then immediately took its claw back. It seemed like Water Kirin was really afraid of the stick. The fire stick rolled a little, then stopped. It lay there peacefully. Water Kirin was puzzled, but still not giving up. Its head suddenly turned to Sha Danan. A low roar came from its mouth. Sha Danan was surprised and his muscles were tightened. He immediately held his breath. But that was only for a second. Its head turned back to the fire stick again. This time, it even lowered its head and sniffed the fire stick. Sha Danan's heart was beating hard. However, watching this beast's weird behavior, he realized it looked precisely like Big Yella. If he was not extremely nervous, he would have laughed already. After a while, clearly Water Kirin didn't discover anything. It raised its head. Its large head looked around and was still puzzled. After a moment, it gave up. Water Kirin snorted and glared at Sha Danan. Again, Sha Danan was frightened. It walked to the pond and dived in. Sha Danan put himself together and slowly got up. He felt the back of his clothes were all wet. The sweat on his forehead was like raindrops. He picked up the fire stick and saw nothing weird. He complained loudly, "God!" Suddenly, the water sprayed out from the pond. The giant tail of Water Kirin appeared on the surface of the pond. Sha Danan quickly put the fire stick back into his clothes. He ran away as fast as he could. He could hear the sound of water behind him, but he didn't have the guts to look back. All he wanted was to get away from the beast as far as possible. He got on Rainbow Bridge and kept running until he could hear the sound no longer. When he finally reached the end of the bridge, he stopped and panted. Sha Danan's breathing was back to normal. He was tired. He lowered his head and saw, under the moon, a lonely shadow was following him. He raised his head, looked at the sky, the cold moon hanging in the sky. He watched it, blankly. Dawn, everyone woke up. Amandla kept rubbing his back, complained loudly, "Really, my back is almost broken for the whole night, how am I going to participate in the contest?" 5th Ludaxon frowned. 6th, don't yell. I don't feel anything on my back. Xavion said. Right, 6th, you complained for the whole night, still not enough. Didn't you hear 5th and Xiao Shidi say nothing? Amandla rolled his eyes, said, 5th Shishong has hard muscles and skin. Ask Xiao Shidi, look at him. Hey, Xiao Shidi, why are your eyes all bloodshot? Last night you really didn't sleep well. Sha Danan finished packing up the sheets and sat in the chair next to the window, staring at the sky. Big Yella lay next to his feet. Ash was searching for fleas in Big Yella's fur. Amandla walked to him and slapped Sha Danan's shoulder heavily. Sha Danan was surprised. Ash and Big Yella were surprised by him. Sha Danan said, What is it? Amandla frowned. Xiao Fan, why are you absent-minded? You really didn't sleep well last night. Sha Danan was startled. No, nothing. Amandla said. Then why are your eyes bloodshot? Just as Sha Danan was about to reply, Hidaji cut in. 6th, don't step into other people's business. It does not matter if Xiao Shidi didn't sleep well. Today, he doesn't need to duel. However, you, on the other hand, if you don't hurry and get ready, don't blame anyone else if you are late. Amandla could no longer worry about Sha Danan. He dashed to the other side of the room and took Ludaxon's basin, washed his face roughly, murmuring, HMPH, Xiao Shidi has such a good life, look at his half-dead sleepy face. Really, 5th Shishong, give me back the basin, it's late for me. Bah, I haven't washed my face, yet. Sha Danan was tired of his Shishongs fighting over the basin, so he walked outside. Xavion asked him from behind, Xiao Shidi, have you washed your face, yet? Sha Danan turned and answered, I did, Da Shishong. Xavion nodded. That's good. It is fine for you to go for a walk, but remember to go to the dining hall to eat breakfast, got it? Sha Danan replied, yes. Ash jumped on Sha Danan's shoulder. Big Yella saw Ash was leaving, it got up and followed lazily behind them. Sha Danan saw the busy figures of Jade's disciples in the corridor. After a while, Sha Danan unwittingly arrived at Cloud Sea. The day was still early. Only a few disciples were walking around Cloud Sea. The cool wind came by, past Sha Danan's cheek. It was cold. It just like last night. His heart hurt. He was already 16 years old. For 5 years at Bamboo Peak, the love for his Shiji was already deeply rooted in his heart. Last night, he saw Hidi secretly met Kevin with his own eyes. His mind was in a state of chaos. His mind was flashing the images of last night that pained his heart to death. His entire body was wandering aimlessly. Suddenly an exclamation came from behind. It surprised Sha Danan. He saw a young Jade disciple was standing next to him. In his hand, there was a golden fan with mountains and rivers drawn on it. His bright eyes didn't look at Sha Danan, but stared at Ash who was sitting on Sha Danan's shoulder. Chapter 22, Contest. Ash saw that person staring at itself with a weird look. Ash got angry and scratched the person with its claw. The person wasn't prepared. His face almost got scratched. Fortunately, he reacted fast, his neck bent back and dodged it. Sha Danan was surprised and told Ash to stop. The person was also surprised. With his hand covering his cheek, he mumbled, that was close. Sha Danan was a bit embarrassed, said, Shishong, sorry. Unexpectedly, he didn't care. He waved his arm and smiled, that's all right. It was my carelessness, I forgot that. Monkey phantasm, have very bad tempers, very easily harm people. Sha Danan was startled. Monkey phantasm. The person was surprised. What? You don't know that monkey is a monkey phantasm? Sha Danan was puzzled. What is monkey phantasm? That person opened his eyes wide, examined Sha Danan, asked, you don't even know it's monkey phantasm, why would you have it? Sha Danan said, when I was cutting down bamboo, it smacked me with pine cones, then, it followed me back home. The Jade disciple's jaw seemed to almost fall off, murmured, got smacked by pine cones and it followed you back home, got smacked by pine cones and it followed you back home. Sha Danan shook his head and walked away. After he took a few steps, the person followed him. The person smiled and whispered, Shidi, oh, no, Shishong, you. It was the first time Sha Danan had been called Shishong. The person's age was at least 20. Sha Danan quickly said, oh, I don't deserve that, just tell me what you want to say. The person grinned, ho ho, Shidi is so easy to approach. Let me introduce myself first. My surname is Sang, name Shushu. Peak of Wind's disciple. Shidi, your name is? Sha Danan said, I am Bamboo Peak's disciple, Sha Danan, Isa Shishong, you are, uncle. The person was startled, then smiled in embarrassment. Ah, I was not intentionally trying to gain advantage over you. My Shushu is books, not uncle, it's all because of my dad. My mom named me Yingshong. How dignified Sang Yingshong sounds like. However, my father saw that I loved to read books, so he named me Shushu. This became a joke, really. Sha Danan couldn't help but laugh. This person's name was as funny as 6 Shishongs. The frustration in his mind was eased by this person. He said, ah, so, Sang Shishong, you really love to read, then? Isa smiled. In regards to that, I don't need to be modest, no one in Peak of Wind reads as many books as I do. But, most of the time, I like to read about anecdotes and strange magical creatures, often that made my dad mad at me. Ah, anyway, you really don't know this monkey is monkey phantasm. Sha Danan shook his head, said, no, I thought it was just a normal monkey. Seeming like it understood what they were talking about, Ash suddenly screamed and pulled Sha Danan's hair. Sha Danan cried, ouch, stupid monkey. Isa looked at it with admiration, said, so smart. Sha Danan said, while bearing the pain, all that stupid monkey knows is how to hit people, you still call that smart. Isa said, this monkey may seem common, but with this strong spiritual mind, it is a rare celestial creature. Do you see the small line between its eyes? Sha Danan turned and looked closely, and discovered a thin vertical line was under the gray fur. There was no way to discover it without close examination. He said to Isa in admiration, you can even notice such small details. Amazing. Isa spoke solemnly, don't underestimate it. From what I had read in Less Than Greater Than, monkey phantasm is a divine creature. It looks no different from a normal monkey when young, but its third eye will open once it grows up. It is not only able to use magic of the 5 elements, it is also able to see things from thousands of miles away. The legendary faculty of clairvoyance came from Monkey Phantasm. Sha Danan took Ash into his arms. He couldn't believe that the monkey had such a great background. No matter how hard he tried to picture it, Ash looked like nothing other than a normal fat monkey. Ash seemed to have gained a few pounds over one night at Peak of Widows. Ash was bewildered why so many people were looking at itself. It screamed madly. Sha Danan made a face and tossed Ash at Big Yella. Big Yella was surprised and jumped away. It was relieved to see it was Ash. Ash gestured, like demonstration, and turned its attention to Big Yella's fleas. Issa looked at Ash admiringly, then turned back and asked Sha Danan, Zhang Shidi also came to participate in 7 Peaks tournament. Sha Danan nodded. What about you, Seng Shishang? Issa smiled. Me too. Yesterday, I got number 33. What is your number? You had better not happen to be my opponent today. Sha Danan smiled as well. I got number 1. Issa was surprised. You were the Bamboo Peak disciple yesterday. Sha Danan's face flushed, nodded. Issa smiled. You are so fortunate. Then, he paused and calculated in his mind, said, it seems like we will not meet each other until the final. This is going to be difficult. Sha Danan laughed. With my level of cultivation, I will be out after the second round. Issa stuck out his tongue. I am afraid I can't even pass round 1. They both laughed. They chatted for a while, then Xavion called, Xiao Fan, time to eat. Sha Danan answered, then said farewell to Issa. Big Yella and Ash followed Sha Danan to Xavion. Xavion asked, who is the person you were talking to? Sha Danan said, a Shishang from Peak of Wind. His name is Issa. Xavion was surprised. Issa. Sha Danan was bewildered. What it is, Da Shishang. Xavion turned and said, that person is head of Peak of Wind, Seng Shuchang, Seng Shibo's only son. He is very talented, has strong memory, high knowledge, his cultivation is also very deep. He is one of the hot topics for this tournament. Sha Danan was startled, he couldn't find a word to say. After breakfast, Jade disciples gathered at Cloud Sea. Hundreds of people were there. On the large square, 8 platform stages were set up while everyone was eating breakfast. Each platform was about 20 meters away from each other. They were placed in the shape of bagua. Next to the largest platform, Qian, a tall red list displayed the disciples' names, numbered in gold characters. Sha Danan's name was at the farthest right, without an opponent. Sha Danan looked at his Shishangs. They were all smiling except for Amandla, who was complaining. Not fair, not fair, not. Shut up. A shout came from their side. They were surprised and found it was Tien Bolis, Saran and Hidi. Bamboo Peak disciples immediately saluted. Master Xiniang. Tien Bolis nodded and did not say anything. Saran said, the contest will be beginning soon. You must make us proud, understand? Yes, they said all at once. All Sha Danan noticed was Hidi, who was standing next to Xiniang. Today, she seemed to be more beautiful. She seemed to be in a very good mood. Sha Danan's heart was felt like it had been stabbed by a needle. He lowered his head. Xiao Fan. Saran noticed her disciple was unusual today. She walked toward him. Sha Danan quickly raised his head and responded, yes, Xiniang. Saran asked, are you all right? Sha Danan shook his head. Nothing, Xiniang. Saran took a look at Sha Danan. Xiao Fan, your luck allowed you to skip the first round, but you still need to pay attention to Shishang Shiji's duel. It is good for you, understand? Sha Danan nodded. Yes, Xiniang. Saran turned to Tien Bolis. He nodded and walked toward the platform. Bamboo Peak's disciples followed. Dang! A clear bell ringing sounded in Cloud Sea. The noisy square suddenly became all silent. On the center of the large platform, Master Doyal Shen and Master Vasp Kalo appeared. Master Doyal Shen took a step in front and announced to the disciples, the tournament begins. Then he waved his sleeve, the bell rang again. Dang dang, filled the sky. Sha Danan peeked at Hidi, seeing her excited smile. He couldn't move his eyes to anywhere else and couldn't hear what Master Doyal Shen and Master Vasp Kalo said. Then another bell ringing came again and pulled Sha Danan back to reality. He realized the contest had already begun. 63 people, 8 platforms, so there will be 4 groups. Within the first group, Hidi was the only one from Bamboo Peak. Her platform was at Lee of the West. All Bamboo Peak disciples rushed there. Heidi's first opponent was a disciple of Sunrise Peak. His name was Mansa. He jumped onto the stage. The disciples cheered for him. Surrounding the platform, most of the disciples were from Sunrise Peak. Even their head, Shang Zhongliang, was there. It appeared that they valued Mansa greatly. Tian Bolis and others were covered by the Sunrise Peak disciples. Almost everyone at the platform wore Sunrise Peak's robes. Tian Bolis did not care. His eyes met with Shang Zhongliang's. All they did was give a faint smile. There were disciples already bringing the seats for the masters and Saran. Tian Bolis and Saran sat down. Hidi came and said, "Dad, Mom, I am going up there." Tian Bolis looked at his daughter, said, "Go." Saran said kindly, "Careful." Hidi looked at the stage, smiled without a bit of nervousness, said, "Wait for my good news." Then she turned, with the smile still on her face. Her left hand formed an incantation, shouted, "Up." Red light flashed. The phoenix soul around her waist had moved under her feet, carrying her to the platform. This performance was far better than Mansa's jumping up to the stage like a monkey. Since most of the disciples were males, they were attracted by Heidi's beauty. The applause was so loud that even disciples at the other platforms turned and wondered what happened. Sha Danan and others were standing behind Tian Bolis and Saran. Saran smiled and told Tian Bolis, "Seems like Ling'er's cultivation has improved." Tian Bolis smiled. Although he said nothing, he appeared to be in a very good mood. Hidi already arrived at the stage. She was only 1 yard away from Mansa. Her hands folded, said, "Shen Shishang, it is an honor to face you." Mansa noticed the red glow coming from Heidi's esper. It must be the phoenix soul that his master had warned him about. He replied, "Tian Shimei, please go easy on me." He took a step back. His right hand summoned a sword with faint brown glow in front of him. Saran frowned, whispered to Tian Bolis, "This sword is same as Ling'er's phoenix soul, both are earth element. This battle will be dependent on the level of cultivation of the caster." Tian Bolis smiled. "Of all the earth espers in Jadon, who can match your phoenix soul? I say that sword is 18,000 times worse than yours." Saran said, "Nonsense." The bell rang, announcing the contest had begun. Right after the bell, Hidi immediately pointed. The phoenix soul with red glow charged at Mansa as fast as lightning. Mansa didn't expect Hidi would attack immediately. He fell back 2 steps and sent his sword to face phoenix soul. Red light and brown light crashed together. Hidi and Mansa's bodies shook, then returned to normal. The two espers battled in midair. Tian Bolis frowned. Saran was also surprised that Mansa's cultivation isn't low. At the same time, the Sunrise Peak disciples cheered, "Yeah." The cry from nearly 100 people immediately covered Bamboo Peak's disciples' voices. Sixth Amandla snorted, "Why so loud? It isn't a screaming contest." On the stage, the two espers were in a draw and returned to their respective masters. Mansa took 7 steps, murmured some kind of incantation, then shouted, "Dash!" His brown sword went high into the sky, then, in the speed of lightning it struck at Hidi from above her head. The force could be felt before the sword even landed. Hidi had no sign of withdrawing. Her left hand grabbed Phoenix Soul and pulled it above her head. Phoenix Soul widened several times, formed a wall of red light above her head. At the next moment, Mansa's sword crashed on the red wall. The red light severely shook but there was no danger. Saran was relieved, whispered to Tian Bolis, "Ling'er is so silly and arrogant." Tian Bolis snorted, shook his head. Mansa's sword's attack was blocked and the sword returned to its master. Hidi didn't rest. Phoenix Soul extended and rolled up like a long staff. Hidi caught the staff in hand. The audience was amazed. Mansa frowned. The sword had returned back to him. He grit his teeth. His right hand held the sword while his left hand twisted. As the large staff was about to strike at Mansa's head, the audience was silent. Then, suddenly, the wooden floor of the platform cracked. 5 or 6 huge stones rose out and blocked in front of him. Tian Bolis and Saran's faces darkened while Shang Zhongliang nodded. The staff struck heavily on the stone. The dust covered the entire stage. Heidi's body shook heavily, but the stone was indestructible. Phoenix Soul bounced back. The dust hadn't settled. Mansa's face was slightly pale, but still didn't rest. He roared. His body floated above one of the stones. He held the sword with both hands. The sword brightened and stabbed against extremely hard stone. Another creaking sound. Hidi felt the ground under her feet shake. Then, after several sounds, the wooden floor where Hidi was standing splintered into thousands of pieces. Countless numbers of rock spikes were shooting out from the ground. Ah! Sha Danan let out a scream. He then immediately fell quiet. Saran began to worry. Sunrise Peak cheered loudly. Nice one, Shen Shishang. Great. Victory. The stage was still covered with dust. Hardly anything could be seen. Mansa, who was still standing on top of the stone, didn't relax. His eyes widened, search. Expectantly, after a while, within the thick dust, red light flashed and brightened instantly. Hidi was like a flaming phoenix, flew out from the dust with the red glow of phoenix soul circling her waist. Hidi formed an incantation with both hands. Then, she swung her hands down. Phoenix soul stopped circling and entered into the earth like a viper. Without thinking, Mansa immediately flew backward. Just as he thought, at the location where he was standing, viper-like phoenix soul came out from the earth, appearing like a red dragon. A large hole was created. Hidi was standing in midair, her hands formed an orchid shape, crossed in front of her chest, shouted, "Extend." Phoenix soul paused, then the red light brightened and extended hundreds of times. It went in a circle, went into the ground and came out from the other side. It surrounded Mansa, countless layers of silks tightly covered him. Bamboo Peak disciples looked at each other. This was the magic Hidi used 2 years ago against Bei. Today, it became even more powerful. With the sky and earth covered by silks, how will Mansa differ from Bei? As Hidi kept channeling the incantation, the giant ball of silk slowly contracted. Between the gasp of the lines of silk, the brown glow was faintly visible. Mansa was clearly continuing to resist, still. Even the silks slowed down due to the resistance, however, it still continued to contract. The Sunrise Peak disciples were quiet, nervously watching the giant red ball. Everyone knew what may happen if they got squeezed like that by an esper. The red silk was 6 feet wide. The red light had completely forced down the brown light. No one could see Mansa. Hidi was still in midair. Her face began to flush. Her hands began to shake. After a while, Phoenix Soul contracted one more foot. Everyone held their breath. At that moment, Mansa broke through the silk and came out, however, his face was completely pale. The Sunrise Peak disciples cheered loudly, however, Sheng Zhongliang closed his eyes and sighed. Tian Bolis and Saran smiled to each other. Mansa was dying trying. Hidi pointed her hand. Phoenix Soul quickly followed and hit Mansa's back. Mansa couldn't dodge. Even turning his body seemed to be a great difficulty for him. Phoenix Soul hit him, and Mansa fell off of the stage. Sunrise Peak disciples stopped their cheering, as though muted. Sheng Zhongliang stood up, shook his head, yelled at the disciple next to him, "Hurry and help Shen Shishang." The Sunrise Peak disciples realized and went to Mansa, helped him to get up. Hidi took back her esper and landed on the ground. She smiled to Mansa, "Thank you, Shen Shishang, for going easy on me." Mansa looked at her, smiled bitterly, "Tian Shimei is very gifted. I hold admiration." Then, he let the disciples carry him away. Sheng Zhongliang came, said to Tian Bolis and Saran, "Tian Shishang, although niece is still young, she already has developed great talent. It really fills me with admiration." Tian Bolis smiled proudly, "I am flattered." Saran also smiled, said, "Sheng Shishang's house has many talented disciples. I believe there are stronger opponents in your house." Sheng Zhongliang smiled and walked away. Tian Bolis did not press further questioning. He turned and walked. Hidi returned to them. Immediately she was surrounded by Bamboo Peak's disciples. They were all smiling, saying many praising words to drown Hidi with. Sha Danan was happier than anyone else. Tian Bolis came over. Hidi swiftly went to Saran's side, pulled her arms and smiled, "How is it, Mom? Aren't I tough?" Saran rolled her eyes, but then laughed, "Yes, yes." Tian Bolis was also smiling. His daughter had given them a good start. He was finally able to let out his pressure. He patted Heidi's head. Then, he turned back to the disciples, "Now is your turn. Linger has set an example for you all. You must try hard. It is possible for you to match disciples from other houses." They said together, "Yes." Sha Danan shouted along with them. They left and prepared for their own battle. Next round, 3 disciples from Bamboo Peak were up. Tian Bolis and Saran separated to observe different matches. Saran noticed Sha Danan was still standing in the same spot. She reminded him to closely observe the contest, then left. Sha Danan thought for a moment, planning to find Hidi and go with her to cheer for their Shishong. His eyes searched through the crowd and found Hidi was walking quickly toward Kevern. Sha Danan's heart sank. Hidi spoke with Kevern. Kevern and talked to Hidi. Hidi laughed. Together they picked on of the platforms to watch the contest. Sha Danan stood still. A sorrowed disappointment rose in his heart. His blood turned cold and froze his heart. Note: Shinmo Zi's spiritual creature's monkey phantasm came from Mount Sumeru. Extremely smart and naughty. The third eyes open when it become thousands years old. It can see things thousands miles away. Able to control nature. Protector of Buddha. Shinmo Zi, an ancient book with collection of strange creatures, gods and devils, treasures. Wrote by Xiao Ding. Xiao Ding, his name didn't recorded in any history. Blah blah blah, let's not translate this part. It is just how Xiao Ding keeps saying how smart he is in this part of the note. Very intelligent since young age. Very strong memory. Had traveled around the world. He wrote the best book of the world, Shinmo Zi. P.S. If you don't know, Xiao Ding is actually the author of this book, Zhu Xian. You know what I trying to say about the notes above. Chapter 23, Divine Sword. Ha, Zhang Shidi. Suddenly, Sha Danan's shoulder was heavily patted upon by someone. Sha Danan was too focused on Hidi, he didn't notice anyone around him. He was surprised, then he discovered that it was Issa who he met earlier. Issa smiled at Sha Danan, then turned his attention to Ash. Ash saw that annoying guy was here again. It made a face and jumped on Big Yella's back. It patted Big Yella's head. Big Yella turned its head, glared and barked at Sha Danan and Issa, then ran away. Sha Danan frowned, called, Ash, come back, don't wander around. Issa laughed. Don't worry. Monkey phantasms are extremely smart. It won't get lost. Sha Danan shrugged. He turned and was about to speak to Issa, he realized something and turned back. He saw the direction where Big Yella and Ash were going was to the kitchen. He said, Ah, stupid monkey, there you go again. Issa was curious. What is it? Sha Danan coughed, smiled, nothing. Oh, right, don't you need to attend the contest, too? How come you still have time to see me? Issa laughed. Oh, I am already done. Got nothing to do, so I came to say hi to you. Sha Danan was surprised. What? You are already done? How is the result? Issa folded his fan and scratched his head. Accidentally won a round. Heh. Sha Danan looked at Issa's casual tone, it didn't seem Issa got into a huge fight. He carefully asked, Seng Shishong, is your cultivation that high? Issa immediately waved his hand. Alas, Zhang Shidi, what are you saying? With such little cultivation as I have, how am I suitable to walk on the stage? If not because my father forced me to practice, I will be too lazy to care about it. I'd rather garden, feed birds, read books. How relaxing is that? But, anyway, he put his arm on Sha Danan's shoulder, walked with him, whispered, but, I can never expect in Seven Peaks tournament that there is someone that is worse than me. Sha Danan laughed bitterly, there are many that are worse than you. Issa shrugged his shoulders, said casually, that doesn't matter. No matter how greedy I am, I cannot expect to be the winner, however, I am rather interested by your monkey phantasm. Heh, Zhang Shidi, I will be better if you. Sha Danan saw his evil look, immediately said, Seng Shishong, don't think about taking my ash. Issa stopped, then rolled his eyes, said, then let me trade with you. You know, I have a lot of rare, fun, valuable creatures in Peak of Wind. For example, the three-legs rabbit, black-white peacock, shellless turtle, and snake with wings. Sha Danan couldn't help but ask, you really have so many strange creatures? Issa was complacent, said, of course. I have spent much effort on collecting those and received punishment from my dad all the time. However, I still like your monkey phantasm. How is it, which one do you want to trade for? Sha Danan shook his head, no. I kept Ash because I think we have a strong bond between us. Also, the black-white rabbit, shellless peacock you said. Issa immediately corrected him. It is three-legs rabbit, black-white peacock and the one without a shell is the turtle. Sha Danan stuck out his tongue, said, oh, yes, however, I am not interested in those. I am not going to trade. Issa rolled his eyes again. He took Sha Danan away from the crowd of people. He looked around with a strange look on his face. Then, he whispered, Zhang Shidi, I'll show you something good. See if you like it or not. He took out a thick, blue-covered book, handed it to Shah Danan. Shah Danan took a look at the cover. It did not have a title. The cover seemed old. Isa pretended to look normal, but his eyes were peeking around, very cautiously. Shah Danan shook his head, said, Seng Shishong, I cannot take such a valuable book. My potential is not good enough. It is useless for me to read it. I also don't want to trade ash. Please, take it back. Isa glared at him, said quietly, that is because you haven't read it yet. Read it first, hurry. Shah Danan looked at his strange behavior. He couldn't help but be curious. He opened it and was stunned. His face immediately flushed. In the book, besides large amount of words, there was also a lot of drawings. They were all naked men and women. It was a pornography book. It was the first time in Shah Danan's life to see such a thing. He cried out, Seng Shishong, why do you have such a thing? Shush. Isa was surprised, and quickly took back the book, hiding it in his clothes. Then he carefully looked at the disciples around them and glared at Shah Danan, don't be so loud. Shah Danan understood. However, he was still surprised. He whispered, Seng Shishong, why you have, read such a book. Isa's lips curved, said, so what? Let me tell you, there is only one copy of this book in the world. I had put extreme amounts of effort to get it. I promise, after you read it, you will be able to get every lady's heart in the world. How is it to trade for ash? Shah Danan shook his head. No. Isa said angrily. This is a no, that is a no. Tell me, what do you want? Shah Danan replied honestly, I don't want anything. Isa could not do anything about it, said, why are you so much like wood? Shah Danan chuckled, didn't mind it. His eyes faintly able to see the beautiful figure within the cloud. Isa gave up. He opened his fan. Then, the bell rang from far away. Another contest had begun. Isa looked in that direction, smiled suddenly and pulled Shah Danan, said, come, I will bring you to watch the most popular person in Jadon. Shah Danan was startled, asked, who? Then, he paused, his face darkened, said, is it Dragon Head Peak's Kevern Shishong? Isa said, huh, seemed like he was amazed, then he shook his head, Chi Shishong's cultivation was well known already. But didn't you hear, this session's spotlight is on another person. Shah Danan thought for a moment, asked, who? Isa seemed to have forgotten the argument they had a while ago. He smiled mysteriously, you will know if you come with me. He pulled Shah Danan with him. Shah Danan was also curious of who that person is, so he followed along. Isa took Shah Danan to the largest platform, Qian. Shah Danan followed behind Isa. He saw below the stage it was overcrowded by hundreds of Jadon disciples. At least 400 or 500 people. Shah Danan guessed more than half of the Jadon disciples were all gathered here. As they walked near, they could hear the Jadon disciples were all discussing excitedly around them. Bamboo Height always has so many beauties. I heard Anan is said to be the most beautiful lady in 500 years. Of course, that day I saw her at Crystal Hall. She is so enchanting. Huh, who hit my head, Shishu? A white-bearded old man was next to the disciple. He said angrily, brat, you are a cultivator. Your mind is supposed to be still, yet you still care about women. If you are up there, all you know is her face, you will be lost before you are even able to make a move. Yes, HMPH, I already told Head Shishong, Jadon should not be adopting females as disciples. Ahem, Shishu Senior is really, brilliant, intelligent, wise, but isn't your voice a bit too loud? What, am I wrong? The old bearded man's voice raised higher. No, no, the disciples quickly surrounded him. They whispered, Shishu, Master Shui Yu is sitting there. HHMP, the old man lowered his voice, said, if not because she is from the same faction, I already would have. The disciples immediately agreed and praised the old man who was highly cultivated who would not bother with the younger one. Isa and Shah Danan looked at each other. Isa shrugged. Shah Danan whispered, the person you mentioned is a Shiji from Bamboo Height. Isa nodded, looked at the stage, said, haven't started yet. You will know her soon. But, alas, there are too many people. They circled around the stage. However, it was too crowded by Jadon disciples, they couldn't find a way to get into the crowd. Shah Danan was even more curious. He wondered who was so popular that could draw so many Jadon disciples here. Isa was anxious, he kept saying, darn it, too many people. I should have waited here last night to get a good spot. Sha Danan was surprised, but before he could say anything, suddenly Issa's eyes brightened. He saw that there was a group of Peak of Wind disciples standing there. Without saying anything, he took Sha Danan to the group. The Peak of Wind disciples recognized it was Issa. They all smiled. A huge man said, "Ho ho, you are late." Issa didn't bother with him. He took Sha Danan, squeezed into the crowd. The Peak of Wind disciples were very nice to him. They all moved out of the way. Sha Danan followed him. They got inside of the crowd. The view was much better. Near the platform, 8 people were sitting there. They were Jadon's head master Doyal Shen, head of Dragon Peak master Vasp Kalo and head of Bamboo Height master Shui Yu. Other people were elders from different houses. Standing behind them, the Jadon disciples were tightly crowded together. The most attractive were the Bamboo Heights female disciples who were standing behind Master Shui Yu. Sha Danan recognized Bako. The one who stood the closest to Master Shui Yu was a beautiful lady in a blue dress he saw yesterday in Hall of Crystal during sortation. Her face was still as cold as ice, attracting many people. "See her, it is her." Issa elbowed Sha Danan, told him to look at the blue-dressed lady. Sha Danan looked at her, said quietly, "Is she the one you said is the most cultivated?" Issa was like a drunk, he said, "Not necessary to be the most cultivated. She entered Jadon not long ago. Her cultivation is hard to predict. However, everyone says she is certainly the most beautiful." Sha Danan frowned. "Seng Shishong, your drooling face makes you look weird." Issa said, "Ahem, did I? Heh, you must be wrong. Do you see the Shishongi around us?" Sha Danan saw most of the disciples. Eyes were on the Bamboo Heights disciples, especially Blue Dress Anon. But it seemed like the girls had already gotten used to it. Every one of them acted normal. Anon's face was emotionless, cold like frost and ice, ignoring all the males behind her. Issa swallowed, whispered to Sha Danan, "You can't blame anyone for it. Jadon suddenly adopted many young disciples in recent years. Look around, at least 400 disciples are around our age. Heh, our cultivation isn't high enough. Hard to resist." Sha Danan peered at him. Drawing association with the book Issa had shown, he felt there was a word, say, written on Issa's face. Issa turned and asked surprisingly, "Zhang Shidi, why you not look at them but me? You and I are friends, that's why I brought you here." "Right, who do you think get the best body?" Sha Danan immediately turned his head away. He added a lang behind the comment he thought for Issa. The noise suddenly disappeared. Under the watch of people, Anon stepped up, saluted Master Shui Yu. Master Shui Yu nodded, said, "Go." Anon responded. She tidied up her dress. Her right hand softly formed an incantation. Her eyes looked at the stage. The faint white smoke around her feet quickly gathered. Soon, a cloud formed. Anon stood on top of the cloud like a fairy. Slowly floating up into the air, it carried her to the stage. Wind came by, the white smoke was like the softest, most beautiful silk. Her dress fluttering between the clouds. Like a goddess from 9 skies descended to the earth, causing people to love and also respect. Then, the sudden applause made Sha Danan's ears ring. He was surprised how popular Anon is. But as he looked at the beautiful figure in midair, he couldn't help to control himself but to think there could be such a beautiful person in this world. A smile appeared on Master Shui Yu's cold face. After a moment, a young disciple walked to the stage. No one noticed him. Square face and thick eyebrows. His look was fine, but at that moment his face seemed excited. Once he got on the stage, he said to Anon, "Lu Shimei, I am Dragon Head Peak's disciple Aiko. Today I can fight against Shimei, it is very fortunate for me." Boo, hiss and boo were everywhere. Anon was calm, standing in midair and said coldly, "Fang Shishong is courteous. Bamboo Heights 8th generation Anon, today asking Fang Shishong for knowledge." Sha Danan looked at Anon standing in midair like a fairy. It reminded him of Hidi who was also standing there in midair not long ago. He could faintly see Heidi's figure from Anon. On the stage, Aiko was still talking. It seemed like he did not mind if he was talking like this forever and not beginning the contest. Fortunately, many people disliked it. After he spoke a word or two, many people, including Issa, who was standing next to Sha Danan, many people began to shout angrily, "Why still not beginning? Pervert, so annoying like a woman. Huh, that Bamboo Heights Shiji, ouch. What are you trying to do? No, I didn't mean." Ding, finally the bell rang. Anon's eyes glared straight at Aiko. Aiko trembled under the cold glare of Anon. He couldn't dare to say stupid things any longer. He took back his smile, focused his mind. He held out his right hand and summoned a silver-white sword. Sha Danan frowned. The sword had reminded him of Kevern's esper, frozen ice. Issa snorted. With Kevern's example, many people in Dragonhead Peak love to craft this kind of sword. Sha Danan looked around but couldn't find Kevern anywhere in the sea of people. He did not want to see Kevern anyway. Where did they go? Sha Danan lowered his head. Sorrow rose in his heart. Suddenly, Issa pulled his arm, said happily, Xiao Fan, look, the contest has begun. Sha Danan saw Aiko already summoned his sword. He could feel the chill coming from it. However, Sha Danan discovered Aiko's ice magic's power was still a distance away compared to the day Kevern battled against Tien Bolis. However, Anon was still standing on the cloud, coldly watching Aiko channel energy and form an ice wall. She had no sign of attacking. On her back was a sky-blue sword. This sword seemed unable to combine with its owner like most cultivators, espers. However, no one here dared to underestimate this sword. In cultivation, most espers could combine with their owner after a long time of practicing. They could summon the esper when it was needed. However, some strange espers, due to extreme high spiritual strength, the human body could not bear as a burden, so, the owner must carry the esper with him or her. This type of esper always has spiritual power. The stronger the owner's cultivation is, the more power the esper could release. The Jaden's treasure ancient sword, Regenesis, belonged to this type. In a 3-yard radius around Aiko, a thin layer of ice was formed. The nearby disciples could feel the chill that came from it. Anon, who was standing in midair, did nothing and continued watching Aiko. Aiko danced with the sword lonely under the eyes of hundreds of disciples. The eyes of other people were fine. But Anon's eyes were much colder than the chill that came from his own sword. It kind of limited his functionality. Aiko was in a rush. His hand pointed at Anon from below. The silver sword charged at Anon. He said, Lu Shimei, careful. Laughter came out from the crowd. Aiko appeared to be fearful of harming Anon. Master Vasp Kalo was embarrassed. He snorted heavily. The person seated next to him immediately responded, What? Vasp Kalo Shishong is dissatisfied. Master Vasp Kalo didn't turn. He said, Shui Yu Shimei, every disciples in your house are all so pretty. During the contest, Master Vasp Kalo did not praise her disciples' talents but instead mentioned the ladies' beautiful faces. It was clearly sarcasm. Master Shui Yu replied, I also didn't know that under Jadon there is such an abundance of lechers and trash. Master Vasp Kalo flew into a fury. Just when he was about to retort, Master Doyal Shen held up his hand, smiled, Okay, we are hundreds of years old already. Don't you feel humiliated to argue in front of so many disciples? Watch the contest, watch the contest. The two masters snorted heavily, then turned away. Aiko's silver sword was already under Anon's cloud. Anon's cold face didn't show anything and she didn't move. The cloud carried her backward. But Aiko's sword was so fast that it caught up to Anon within an instant. The audience screamed or sighed as they watched the sword get close to Anon. Anon held the sword in her hand. She didn't draw the sword out from the sheath. She only used the sky blue sword block in front of her. Chong! The clear sound filled the entire square. It was as though Aiko's sword received a hard blow. The sword fell back. Aiko and Master Vasp Kalo were both surprised. Without hesitation, Anon tossed away her sword. The fingers on the right hand twisted and formed a seal. The sky blue sword brightened in midair. Blue light covered the entire stage. It appeared as though this sword was definitely not a normal esper. Aiko was shocked by the bright blue light, but he was also angered by Anon not pulling out the sword from the sheath. He used his sword and formed 3 layers of ice wall. In midair, Anon's eyes were as bright as stars. Her hairs danced in the wind. Her mouth was quietly pronouncing the incantation. Her icy face had no emotion. A loud bang came from the sky blue sword, like a roar of a mighty beast. The cloud vapor within 20 yards were blown away by the bright blue light. The light was as blue as the sky. The sword flew toward Aiko. Sweat dropped from Aiko's forehead like rain. He was clearly shocked by the power of Anon's sword. Within an instant, the sword was in front of him. Ka! 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 The disciples were stunned as they saw the sword cut through Aiko's ice wall as if it was nothing. With Aiko's strength, it was not that he could not form any more ice walls to defend, it was that he thought 3 layers of ice walls were already enough. He didn't expect Anon's cultivation was so high, and the sky blue sword was surprisingly powerful. At that moment between life and death, Aiko forced himself to concentrate. The silver sword lay in front of him, formed a white shield. Then, Anand's blue sword crashed with the white shield. Bang! With the two swords as the center, the loud bang swiftly spread. The Jade disciples felt the gale hit against them. They all fell backward. The circle of the crowd enlarged instantly. They had never seen such power came from an esper before. After that surprise, everyone turned their attention back to the stage. Anand already landed on the platform. The hat returned to her hand. The blue and white light also disappeared. Everyone could see the pale color of Aiko's face. Aiko raised his head, pointed at Anand, his voice was cracked, "You." Everyone was confused about what happened. Then a strange thing occurred. A cracking noise came out from the white sword that was floating in front of Aiko. Under the eyes of the audience, a large split appeared. The sword then broke into half, fell on the floor. It was silent. Everyone here knew what an esper meant to a cultivator. On the platform, Aiko spit out a large amount of blood. His hand held his chest. Then, he couldn't hold out any longer and fainted. Say Lang mean pervert, p. Chapter 24, Unexpected. Immediately several disciples from Dragon Head Peak rushed to the stage and lifted up Aiko. They looked at the broken sword. Their eyes were filled with fury, glaring at Anand like they were wishing they could kill that beautiful lady in front of them. Master Vasp Kalo held his fists tight, said coldly, "Shui Yu Shimei, your disciple's heart is very fierce. Winning the battle is not enough, she even broke his esper with the power of a divine esper. What logic is that?" Master Shui Yu said coldly, "Shuiki's cultivation is not good enough. She can't control Aeolian Firmus, well, not that big of a deal." Master Vasp Kalo was about to burst in his anger. Suddenly, a hand patted on his shoulder. Master Doyal Shen had risen. He patted Master Casp Kalo's shoulder. Master Vasp Kalo looked at him and was forced to hold his hanger. He snorted heavily and strode away. Master Doyal Shen looked at Master Vasp Kalo's back, shook his head and smiled bitterly. He turned and saw Master Shui Yu also walked away. Anand came down from the stage and arrived in front of Shui Yu. Shui Yu looked at her, smiled and nodded. Anand didn't say anything. She bowed and followed as Shui Yu walked away. Sha Danan put himself back together after the soul-stirring battle. Seeing Shui Yu walking with Anand, he realized how alike both of them were. They were both cold as frost. They seemed like they had come out of the same mold. Suddenly Issa sighed. "Can't believe that even Aeolian Firmus has reappeared." Sha Danan was confused, said, "What is Aeolian Firmus?" The Jadon were slowly dispersing. Issa greeted several disciples of Peak of Wind, then walked away with Sha Danan, saying, "Aeolian Firmus is the sword that Anand was using. I had read about it from less than greater than. Aeolian Firmus first appeared in the hand of a cultivator known as Deadheart Master 1,000 years ago. Legend said that this sword is made of steel that comes from 9 skies. Deadheart Master found it in the northern ice plain. He crafted the sword with it. At the battle between good and evil, the leader of good was our Jadon clan's Master Jade Leaf, but Deadheart Master was also rather well known. Especially with his godly sword Aeolian Firmus, he battled evil's Elder Blackheart for 3 days and nights. Then he severely injured Elder Blackheart, got rid of one of our biggest threats. During that time, it was said only Aeolian Firmus could restrain Sinister Orb. From that time, Aeolian Firmus became famous. A dream among the cultivators. However, after Deadheart Master passed away, Aeolian Firmus vanished. Never thought that it was in the hands of Bamboo Height. Then Issa shook his head, said, "Xiao Fan Shidi, Sinan has such a godly weapon, this contest will not leave us with any hope." Sha Danan was not disappointed. He never thought of achieving anything anyway. But seeing Issa's disappointed look, he was curious. "Ha, Seng Shishong, didn't you tell me that you were not interested in the tournament? Why do you look so disappointed?" Issa blushed, said, "If I am, at least, able to stand on top of the stage in the final, it would look quite impressive, don't you think?" Sha Danan laughed. Issa looked at his weird face and felt embarrassed. He punched Sha Danan. "What's so funny?" Then he himself laughed also. They walked to another platform and watched another battle. That day, Bamboo Peak had the record of 4 wins and 3 losses. Xavion, Hidi, Hidaji, Amandla and the inclusion of the lucky Sha Danan, 5 people advanced into the next round. This was the best record of hundreds of years. It made Tien Bolis so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. Second day, dawn sunlight shone upon Cloud Sea. Jadon disciples came to the square like yesterday. They continued to watch Jade's Seven Peaks tournament. Bamboo Peak people stood under the red list same as yesterday. Half of the names had been taken out. Next to Sha Danan's name, his opponent was written there, Chu Yu Wang. Since the morning, Sha Danan started to feel nervous. Although he knew he came here to absorb knowledge, his heart couldn't help but feel uneasy. He couldn't eat breakfast. He whispered to Xavion, who was sitting next to him, Da Shishang, who is Chu Yu Wang? Is he strong? Xavion frowned, shook his head. I am not sure. I have never heard of him. The list says he is Sun Ris Peak's disciple. But, as for the level of cultivation, I do not know. Then, he looked at Sha Danan, seeing him appear nervous, he smiled. Xiao Shidi, don't worry. It is not that big of a deal. The first time I participated in the contest, I was also extremely nervous. Sha Danan murmured. Yes. Amandla came, with an evil smile on his face. Hey, Shixings. Let us have a gamble on Xiao Shidi's result. Right, I bet Xiao Shidi lose. Me too. Me also, I put double shares. Add me in. Xavion was angry, pointed at everyone. What do you guys think you are doing? Xiao Shidi has a battle ahead of him and you guys want to hurt him more. Sha Danan said thankfully. Da Shishang. Xavion said. Sixth. Amandla stuck out his tongue, said. Da Shishang, I was just joking. Please don't tell Master. Xavion said. No, you hurt him already anyway. This gamble I put in 5 shares. Amandla and Sha Danan said at the same time. What? Tien Bolis and Saran came in. Bamboo Peak disciples stood up and greeted them. Tien Bolis looked at them, said, yesterday your performance was not bad. However today, in the second round, the opponents are basically Jade's elites. You must be cautious. They answered. Yes. Saran looked at Sha Danan, came to him, said, Xiao Fan, today is your first battle. You must be careful, understand? Sha Danan's heart was warmed, he said quietly, yes, Xiniang. Saran nodded. She wanted to say something more, however, the ringing bell announced the contest had begun. Tien Bolis and Saran looked at each other, nodded, said, you all know which platform you should go to. The red list has stated it. When the contest begins, your Xiniang and I will come watch your battle. Make sure not to make use lose face. They responded. Tien Bolis nodded, spoke with Saran privately, then walked away. Hidi looked around, then went to Sha Danan. Sha Danan's heart beat rapidly. Hidi looked closely at Sha Danan, then laughed. Turned to everyone and said, look how nervous Xian Fan is. His forehead is sweating. The disciples laughed. Xavion said, I had already tried to comfort Xiao Shidi, but it didn't work. It seems we need Xiao Shimei's help. Hidi said to Sha Danan, Xiao Fan, I have a battle, too. I can't cheer for you. You need to try hard and be careful. Her face was so close to Sha Danan that he could smell her faint fragrance. He nodded, but he couldn't say anything. Hidi clearly didn't think too much of it. She smiled to Sha Danan, then talked to her Shishangs for a bit. After a while, everyone went to their own platform for the contest. The people who did not need to fight were cheering for their members, however, no one came with Sha Danan. Perhaps everyone thought Sha Danan was hopeless. As Sha Danan stood there watching his Shishangs walking away, his heart had an indescribable pain. Then he slowly walked to the red list, carefully read through it again. The platform for him and the Sunrise Peak disciple Chu Yuang was the farthest, platform. Sha Danan gave a bitter smile. On his way to the platform, he heard many people were talking about the contest yesterday. The well-known disciples advanced to the next round easily. They spoke of a very talented disciple in Dragon Head Peak ASID from Cavern. Sha Danan guessed it must be Bei. Most people's topic of focus was Anon, the beautiful lady with the divine sword, Aeolian Firmus. Her level of cultivation had surpassed everyone's expectations. Most people were not happy that Anon had destroyed her opponent's swords. But this also brought even more disciples to watch her battle. The vanished, Aeolian Firmus, attracted even more people. Some elders also wished to witness the godly Esper from the good and evil battle 1,000 years ago. As he heard the discussion between the disciples along the way, he recalled the cold, beautiful face of Anon. He shook his head. Then, someone called, Xiao Fan. This voice was familiar. Sha Danan raised his head and smiled. It was Bei. Sha Danan quickly went to him, said, I was thinking why I could not find you. There you are. Bei pointed behind him. Today, I still need to go to the contest. It is at this platform, so I came early to prepare. Then he looked closely at Sha Danan, smiled. Today is also your turn. Which platform are you at? Sha Danan said, I am going to platform. It will begin soon. I can't come cheer for you. Be careful up there. Bei smiled. You too. Huh, how come your Shishangs and elders don't come to watch you? Sha Danan was startled, forced himself to smile. You know my house does not have much people. Today many of us need to go to the contest. Master and Xiniang are watching Da Shishang and Shiji's battle. Bei looked at him, sighed and patted Sha Danan's shoulder. Sha Danan smiled. Does not matter. I came here to obtain experience. Don't worry, you need to try hard, however. Don't let them think our grass temple village people are useless. Bei nodded. The bell behind him rang. He turned his head back and checked, said, my contest is about to begin. I can't talk with you. If I can, I will come to see you after this battle. Sha Danan nodded, said, go. Bei turned. Sha Danan watched Bei leaving. He thought to himself, it will be a miracle if I can still hold out until you get here. He laughed at himself as he made his way slowly to the platform. It was the far eastern part of Cloud Sea. There were only several disciples, most were from Sunrise Peak. The number of people was significantly different than Anand's platform. There was only one chair. A white-bearded old man was sitting there. Sha Danan found that old man was a bit familiar. He remembered that old man was the elder who scolded all the disciples during Anand's battle yesterday. He complained Jadon should never adopt any female disciples. Sha Danan did not know which house that elder was from. In Seven Peaks tournament, there were 8 platforms. Normally, there would be at least one elder for each platform to watch over the disciples, otherwise, they would be out of control. Sha Danan walked to the white-bearded old man and bowed, said, Shibo, I am Bamboo Peak disciple Sha Danan. Today's contest at the platform. The old man turned and peered at Sha Danan, casually said, oh, you are here. Hurry, go on to the stage. Sha Danan responded, however, he saw no one on the stage. It was apparent that Chu Yuang hadn't arrived yet. He hesitated for a second, then decided to follow the old man's order and walked onto the stage. At the same time, Sunrise Peak disciples were whispering. It was clear they were discussing Sha Danan. The morning sun had risen. The sunlight of Peak of Widows gently shone down upon them. Sha Danan was standing on the platform, looking at the east sky. The early sun slowly rising upward. The light was soft and red, brightening up the clouds from far away. Many feelings rose in Sha Danan's heart. 5 years ago he was still an ignorant farmer child. He had never dreamed that he could stand at Peak of Widows to watch the sunrise. No, it was not that he never dreamed of it, it was that he could never imagine there could be such a beautiful sunrise. Life was endless like the clouds. His 16-years-old mind, now it was like a 60-years-old man. Sha Danan put his hands into his clothes and touched the cold fire stick. A month ago, without anyone knowing it, Sha Danan was surprised to find that he could manage to control the black fire stick. That moment, he could not believe his eyes. Later, after countless numbers of repeats, the fire stick did move under his mind's strength. Navigate object was a shocking term in Jadon's way of cultivation. It was a symbol of level 4 pure essence. It was what new disciples focused on, hoped for and practiced for. Sha Danan could only dream to reach that level, to make his master proud and to make his master smile. But, is it possible? Sha Danan tried hard to control himself and not tell anyone about it. At the same time, he also tried to navigate other objects in the kitchen, however, they did not move. It weakened his confidence. He was also confused. Why did that happen? At night, when he stared at this mysterious fire stick, he could feel the icy chill slowly circling in his body. Ding! A clear bell rang, surprised Sha Danan. There were still several Sunrise Peak disciples standing present. The white-bearded old man was still half sleeping, sitting on his chair. However, on the opposite side of Sha Danan there was a man standing, about 30 years old, smiling at him. Sha Danan blushed, quickly saluted. Bamboo Peak disciple Sha Danan here to ask for Chu Shishang's guidance. Chu Yuang smiled. No, no. There are many talented people. Although Zhang Shidi is still young, with the contest in front of you, you can only stand there normally, without nervousness or fear. This is far better compared to me in the last session. I am in admiration. Sha Danan startled, murmured, not to conceal the truth, Shishang, I was actually daydreaming. Below the stage, all the Sunrise Peak disciples almost fell down due to laughter. Chu Yuang was also startled. He couldn't hold the laughter, then thought it was improper, so he forced himself to hold it. Zhang Shidi must be joking. It is the time. I will need Shidi to teach me a lesson. Sha Danan became nervous. He said slowly, Chu Shishang, please go easy on me. Chu Yuang didn't reply. It seemed like he was very confident. His right hand shook. A sword with a soft yellow glow was summoned. Sword name, Xiaoyang. Zhang Shidi, please. Sha Danan looked at Xiaoyang's sword. The yellow glow was soft and comfortable. It seemed like this sword was not common quality. He swallowed, however, he still reached his hand into his clothes and took out the fire stick. Everyone's eyes were on that dark black fire stick. Silence. Ha 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 ha. Someone laughed and broke the silence. Laughter burst. Someone painfully said, what is that? I said it already. Everyone from Bamboo Peak are weird. Yesterday, there was a guy that used gambling dice as esper. Today, there is someone with a fire stick. So funny. Ha ha ha. Even Chu Yuang couldn't hold it. He struggled to restrain his laughter, said, Zhang Shidi, that, haha, is yours, haha, sorry, I can't control it. Ah, is it your esper? Sha Danan listened to their laughter. His face flushed. He didn't say anything. He knew the fire stick was ugly and would cause people to laugh at him. However, he couldn't navigate anything other than the fire stick. He had a small, tiny hope that his fire stick could prove himself, so he decided to bring it. But, in the end, the fire stick had brought him disdain and sneers. People were laughing loudly. Sha Danan lowered his head. All he could see was the black, ugly fire stick in his hand. They laughed loudly. Just like when they were leaving, his Shishangs were laughing, even his beloved Linger Shiji also laughed. He lowered his head, closed his eyes. The coolness in his body was calling him. A person, when is it that a person will feel the most lonely? Is it when facing the world's apathy alone? Is it when facing all the sneers alone? A person's blood, is it cold or boiling? He raised his head. The sun shone on his face. No one could see his expression. Chu Yuang's Xiaoyang sword glowed almost as bright as the early sunlight. He shouted. Xiaoyang's sword's light followed his finger and crashed on Sha Danan. The heat blew against his face, but Sha Danan's heart was as cold as ice. Seeing the brightness in front of him, he recalled the morning a long time ago, after the soul-shocking night out there with Bei. When they got back to Grass Temple Village, they saw the bloody scene. At that morning, all his happiness was gone. He could feel as though he were buried in a sea of blood, try as he might to find his parents but couldn't. The heat felt like it was burning his skin. Another night appeared in his eyes. Next to the pond, a beautiful lady was standing next to the water and embraced with her lover. Alas, the 16-year-old youngster sighed. The pain was so strong that he forgot the glowing light in front of him. He bit his lip, a drop of blood, slowly falling. It landed on the black and green fire stick with blood-like threads. In the next moment, he was engulfed by a light that was as bright as the sun. The Sunrise Peak disciples cheered. Within that, there was an exclamation. Issa ignored the eyes filled with hostility next to him. He sighed and felt sorry for his new friend. Pity that the contest's rule did not allow him to help Sha Danan, or else he would already go up there. The bearded old man was also surprised by Issa. On the stage, the bright glow fused with the sunlight. Chu Yuang even thought he had reached the peak of cultivation, and then, after he defeat this trashy opponent, he will defeat every other until the last. After all he needed to do is win 4 more battles. At the thought of that, Chu Yuang could not hide his smile. Xiaoyang's light became brighter. He watched Sha Danan frown and bit his lip under the pain of the heat. Then, at that moment, his heart beat heavily. It seemed like someone used a hammer to hit him inside of his body. No one could see Sha Danan clearly except for Chu Yuang, who was standing in front of Sha Danan. He could see through the light of Xiaoyang. He could see him raise his head, open his eyes. A pair of red, bloodthirsty eyes filled with rage. An unexpected, unknown coldness began to spread. Chu Yuang could see the black fire stick seem to come to life. The black gas rose. The orb on the top of the stick brightened with a green glow, shone on Sha Danan. It was like he had become a different person. Everything happened inside of Xiaoyang's aura. Nobody could see it other than Chu Yuang. Chu Yuang was shocked. Not waiting for him to react, the icy chill had surrounded him. He felt the world was spinning. There was a disgusting feeling inside of him. Moments later, the light green glow from the orb shone on his body. Issa nervously watched Sha Danan being surrounded by the light. He thought of Sha Danan as a roasted monkey. Normally people would think roasted pig, however, Issa thought of monkey, which is weird. He did not want to watch anymore. As the opposite, the Sunrise Peak disciples were cheering. Then, they heard Chu Yuang roared. Xiaoyang's sword flew up into the air. The light immediately disappeared. Sha Danan's figure reappeared. Chu Yuang seemed to be heavily injured. He took a few steps backward. Then, blood spouted from his nose, ears, eyes and mouth. He pointed at Sha Danan with his right hand, but couldn't make any sound. Then his body shook, and fell on the floor, fainted. It was silent. Everyone looked at each other, so surprised that they could not speak. Chapter 25. Luck. After a moment, the white-bearded old man was the first to put himself back together. He jumped on the stage and examined Chu Yuang. His bod was fine, no sign of poison. It appeared that his inside was severely injured by the esper. He frowned, rose up and looked at Sha Danan. He was impressed by this youngster. He peered at the black fire stick in Sha Danan's hand. You won. Putting away his uncertainty, the white-bearded old man said calmly. When Chu Yuang was about to win, but instead fell after a roar. The scenario was mysterious and unacceptable, however, the result was laying in front of them. They couldn't say anything. Issa was also stunned. However, after he heard what the old man announced, he ran to the stage to Sha Danan, as well, hitting him on the shoulder. He chuckled. Good lad, so you were just hiding your skill. Sha Danan turned, stared at him as cold as frost. With a pair of cold, dark black eyes. Issa felt chilled, surprised. Xiao Fan, what is it? Sha Danan's body shook as he heard this question. It seemed to remind him of something. His eyes softened. The coldness in his eyes also disappeared, returning to normal, except for confusion in his eyes. He replied. No, nothing. I am all right. What is it? Issa stared at him. You are asking me what? Why don't you ask me as if you don't know that you won this round? Sha Danan was surprised. What? I won. I really won. Issa was even more surprised. His face turned pale and immediately put his hand on Sha Danan's forehead, said, that's bad. Did your brain get burned by that fire? Sha Danan scratched his head, watched the Sunrise Peak disciples carry Chu Yuang away. Several people glared at Sha Danan angrily. In Sha Danan's mind, the scene of the battle replayed. He looked at his black fire stick. The ugly stick lay in his hand quietly. However, in Sha Danan's eyes, the fire stick that had been with him for 2 years became unfamiliar, just like the nightmare the day in the ancient valley. Pop. Issa saw Sha Danan was lost in thought, used the fan to hit his head, said, what are you thinking? Sha Danan shook his head, sighed. He putted the fire stick back into his clothes, said, nothing. Let's go. Right, why did you come to see my contest? Issa peered at Sha Danan's fire stick, said, mine hasn't started yet. I have nothing so I came to watch your fight. I had never expected it could be such great battle. Huh, today your monkey phantasm, what its name? Sha Danan said, Ash. Issa said, right, Ash. Why I don't see Ash today? Sha Danan shook his head. I didn't see its figure for the entire morning. Probably hanging around with Big Yella again. Issa said, seemed like he was disappointed. Sha Danan guessed that, although Issa said he came to watch his fight, he actually came to see Ash. Wow, from the distance, there was a wave of loud noise. They could hear it clearly, even from far away. In the center of the square, many Jade disciples were surrounding the Qian platform. Wave after wave of exclamation was issuing from the disciples. Sha Danan hadn't reacted to it. Issa was already stamping his feet. Damn it, damn it. I was too concerned about you, forgot the most important thing. Then he pulled Sha Danan's arm and began to run. Sha Danan was confused, asked while running, what is it? Issa's face showed regret. That is Anand's contest. Sha Danan smiled, but his heart was also moved by this friend that he only knew for 2 days. On the deserted platform, he couldn't see his master, or any of his Shishangs, except for Issa. A feeling of warmth rose in his heart. Issa, thank you for coming to see me. Issa startled and slowed the pace. He turned and looked at Sha Danan, smiled, ho, that was nothing. If you want to thank me you can give Ash. We need to be hurry. Issa shook his head, then followed Sha Danan, with his mouth murmuring. As they approached nearer, they saw the Jade disciples were walking away. They were excited and debating. They looked up at the stage. No one was on the platform, however, it was severely scarred. It appeared that the contest was already finished. Issa rolled his eyes, pushed through the crowd with Shadanan. Then, he found his target, a group of Peak of Wind disciples. Issa quickly went near them. The Peak of Wind disciples smiled when they saw it was Issa. The tall man said, "Shidi, didn't you say you must see Anand's battle? Why were you not there?" Issa coughed, said, "I had, something to do." "Right, hurry, what is the result?" A man with thick eyebrows said, "No need to ask in order to know. With Aeolian Firmus, even if it is Peak of Widows Duan, he still is no match as her opponent." Issa was surprised. Even Duan Shishang lost to her. Shadanan asked Issa, "Is Duan Shishang strong?" Issa nodded. "Yes, Duan is one of the most outstanding disciples in the main house. Many people believe that he can win this tournament." The tall man shook his head. "That doesn't matter much. You didn't see it. The power of Aeolian Firmus is far too strong." The blue light flashed, then a few sounds arose. After that, Duan Shishang lost. Then he paused and sighed. "You may not believe this, however, in the end, Anand still had not pulled Aeolian Firmus out of the sheath." Issa was startled, said, "What is the use of having the tournament? Who can stand as her opponent?" The tall man shook his head. "That is not necessary. A godly weapon like Aeolian Firmus, the power is not much different without the sheath. As for Anand's cultivation, it is terrific." Issa looked at him, said, "Gao Shishang, how do you know?" Shadanan looked at the tall man, his mind thought that person really lived up to his name. Gao Shishang said, "That's what I heard from Master." Issa was surprised. "My dad?" Gao Shishang said, "Yes. Before you arrived, Master was here. At the end of the battle, he said that she might have already surpassed level 8 of pure essence, perhaps she is already at level 9. Issa was stunned. He couldn't say anything. Shadanan was bewildered. Issa said he did not care about the result of the tournament, but he seemed to be very concerned about it. A ringing bell sounded in the distance. The Peak of Wind disciples seemed to have a contest. They all went to the direction of the ringing bell. Shadanan saw Issa was still standing there. He pulled him. Issa awakened, then smiled. "It's all over. Now we have no hope." Shadanan truly didn't care. He said, "Over is over." "Right, why your contest still hasn't begun?" Issa looked into the distance, said, "It still hasn't begun, yet, but I should go now." "Where are you going to go?" Shadanan thought for a moment, then said, "I am going to report to Master and Xiniang, even though it's just a lucky win." Issa nodded. "Come see me if you have time." Shadanan answered, and they said goodbye to each other. Traveling on his way, he could hear many people were discussing the battle between Anand and Duan. After a long while, Shadanan finally found the Bamboo Peak people in the west. He could see the angry face of Tien Bolis from far away. Shadanan always feared Tien Bolis, so he quietly walked to the disciples. Tien Bolis saw him. He quickly turned his face away without asking about the contest's result. Saran, Hidi and the other Bamboo Peak disciples were there except for Xavion. Shadanan peered at everyone. Hidi was fine, but the others were depressed. Shadanan asked Amandla, "Sixth Shishang, how is it?" Amandla peered at Tien Bolis. Seeing he was not looking in their direction, he whispered, "Except for Da Shishang, all of our contests are over. Only Xiao Shimei won. Master is mad, now." Shadanan was startled, did not know what to say. Saran shook her head and sighed, asked Shadanan gently, "Xiao Fan, you are back. How is the result?" Shadanan hesitated, said quietly, "Xiniang, I won." Saran, "Oh, doesn't matter, it is just a loss. Just pretend this is." Then her voice became smaller. She looked at Shadanan, surprised, "What did you just say?" Everyone, even Tien Bolis, turned to Shadanan. This was the first time Shadanan felt proud under the regard of everyone, especially Heidi's surprised eyes. He looked at Tien Bolis, raised his voice higher and said, "Master, Xiniang, I won." They were surprised. They were now at the Kun platform, watching Xavion's battle. On the stage, the 10 tigers sword was like a number of tigers, creating earth-shaking roars. It took full offensive and gained the upper hand over the opponent. Besides being cheerful, the Bamboo Peak people could not believe what Shadanan had told them. Xiao Shidi, so you say that in the contest, you were about to lose, however, Chu Yuang suddenly became ill, bled and fainted. Yes. Fourth Shishang, you and second Shishang, third Shishang, fifth Shishang already asked me 22 times. Why are you still asking me? Sixth Shishang, can you please tell them I am speaking the truth? Amandla replied. Xiao Shidi, so you said that during the contest, you were about to lose but that Chu Yuang suddenly became ill, bled and fainted. Sha Danan held his head, groaned, yes, this is the 23rd time. Hidi said. Why are you guys forcing him? Xiao Dan wouldn't lie, but, then, she still shook her head, said, but Xiao Fan, your luck is so good. Isn't it a bit too much? No wonder other people don't believe you. Sha Danan couldn't say anything. Listening to their disciples' argument, Saran asked Tien Bolis, what do you think? Tien Bolis frowned, asked her back, if he said he won with his own skill, would you believe it? Saran smiled. This disciple's luck is not like other people's normal luck. Tien Bolis snorted. Bang! A loud noise. Xavion roared. The brightness of Ten Tiger's sword was so powerful that people could not keep their eyes open. The opponent finally collapsed by this mighty strength, flew backwards and spit out blood. The Bamboo Peak disciples cheered loudly. Tien Bolis' face finally smiled. Xavion walked down the stage. He first greeted his master and Xiniang, followed by the warm congratulations of the people. Ho ho, that was just lucky. Sixth Shidi, don't say things that are so disgusting. Xiao Shidi, you are back. What is the result? Didn't get hurt, right? Ah, look at you. Listen to Da Shishang, your cultivation is still not deep, there are a lot of chances in the future. Don't put the result of one battle into your heart. Why are you guys looking at me like that? Tien Bolis was the first that walked away. Saran smiled to Xavion, then followed Tien Bolis. Xavion was puzzled, and asked the people, what is it? Hidi told Xavion what happened. Xavion turned to Sha Danan with an unbelievable look on his face. Sha Danan curled in a little. Da Shishang, I know it's not good for my luck to be so good, however, this is the truth. I can't control it. Xavion's eyes widened. Xiao Shidi, so you said that in the contest, you were about to lose, but that Chu Yuang suddenly became ill, bleeded and fainted. Xavion's eyes widened. Xiao Shidi, so you say that in the contest, you were about to lose, but that Chu Yuang suddenly became ill, bled and fainted. Sha Danan fell on the ground hopelessly. There were only 16 disciples in the third round of Seven Peaks tournament. Bamboo Peak had 3 people in the third round, which was surprising. For the entire day, Tien Bolis had a smile on his face. Disciples were discussing secretly. Amandla, look at Master's happy face. This time, we are finally able to throw away our shame. Wu Deya, Da Shishang and Xiao Shimei really made our master proud. He Daji, that is a shame for me. Although Xiao Shimei is still young, she is much better than I. Her future is so bright. Zheng Dali, don't forget about Xiao Shidi, he entered the third round, too. Amandla, let's gamble again. What is the likelihood for Xiao Shidi to pass this round? Do you guys dare to bet? Wu Deya, Hidaji, Zheng Dali, Ludaxin, I bet he loses. Double amount. Amandla, ahem, where is Da Shishang? Ah, Xiao Shidi, Xiao Shimei, what the, where did they go? Hidaji thought for a moment, responded, I am not sure about Xiao Shidi and Xiao Shimei, however, I can guess where Da Shishang is. They looked at each other, then said together, Bamboo Heights Bako Shiji. Xavion suddenly trembled. Bako was curious, what happened to you? Xavion frowned, I don't know. My body just felt a sudden chill. Bako peered at him, said, aren't you feeling guilty? Xavion immediately shook his head, no such thing. No such thing. Bako's face softened, but still snorted, said, then why did you sneak into Bamboo Heights girl's room? Laughter came out near him. Xavion looked around embarrassed. The contest was already over. Most of Bamboo Heights' female disciples had already returned. They were all smiling and looking at him with interest. Xavion quickly changed the topic. Oh, why don't I see my Xiao Shimei? Bako smiled. Your Xiao Shimei was so pretty and enthusiastic. It is natural that someone asked her out already. Xavion was surprised. What? By whom? Bako shook her head and did not continue. Instead she said, if you see your Linger Shimei, best tell her to be careful tomorrow. Speaking about Hidi, Xavion did not feel embarrassed to talk to Bako. He could speak more freely and with a steady flow. He frowned. I know Xiao Shimei has a contest with your Bamboo Heights Anon tomorrow, however, our masters have such a good relationship with each other, there shouldn't be any problem. Seven Peaks tournament is for testing each other's strength, anyway. Bako looked at him, said, your Xiniang Su Shishu does, of course, have a good relationship with my master. My master greatly dislikes your master, though. She still blames your master for stealing our Su Shishu. Xavion was waiting for Bako to continue, however, Bako looked at the other Bamboo Height disciples, seeing they were all quiet. Xavion was bewildered. What is it? Bako looked at him, hesitated for a moment, then said, Song Shishang, Lu Shimei is different from us, however, master really likes her. Once she gets to the stage, we can't say for sure. Xavion's face changed. What? Bako stopped, didn't say anything. Gao mean tall, so that peak of wind Shishang is tall Shishang. Chapter 26. Self-esteem. Xiao Fan, didn't you said you are going to find Ash and that big yellow dog, why you bring me to the kitchen? Isa was behind Sha Danan, kept murmuring while they were entering the kitchen. The kitchen was much larger than Bamboo Peaks. It was also brighter. He searched carefully while saying, I didn't see them at the morning, so I guess they must be here. Isa shrugged his shoulder, said, impossible. What do you think monkey phantasm is? They are celestial nature, far holy than the menkind. And you see it as a thief, a greedy thief. Then Isa was stunned to see Sha Danan held Ash out behind the jar at the corner of the kitchen. Ash screamed in midair. Big Yella came out behind the jar and barked at them. Sha Danan looked at Isa. Isa did not know he should laugh or cry. Sha Danan held Ash in his arms, and scolded Big Yella, stupid dog, stop barking. You want people to catch us. Big Yella understood what he meant, and stopped barking. It looked at Ash and moaned. Sha Danan looked around and see everything was fine. It seemed like the two thieves hadn't steal anything yet. He quickly carried Ash outside, but then he discovered Big Yella did not follow them. Sha Danan turned and saw Big Yella took a bone out from the jar. Sha Danan glared at Ash. Ash grinned with a silly smile on its face. Isa stood next to them, shook his head. They brought the monkey and the dog sneaked out of the kitchen. If someone discover them, the shameful record will never able to wash away. They relieved when they got far enough. Sha Danan said as he gasped for breath, right, I still haven't congratulated you for whining another round. Isa didn't care, his eyes were on Ash, said, so what? Going to lose to someone sooner or later. Why Ash is so dirty? You didn't wash it for days. Sha Danan startled. Never wash it. Isa seemed about to faint, he hit it himself at the forehead. You, how could you treat it like this? Sha Danan thought that Moniki often running around, how can it be clean even if he does wash it? But seeing Isa's heart-hurted face, he knew Isa wouldn't listen to any reason. So Sha Danan changed the subject. Right, do you know a tomorrow contest, Anon's opponent is my Shiji Hidi. Isa startled. Is your Shiji, the Hidi with Phoenix Soul? Yeah, Sha Danan patted Ash. These 2 days Anon was really showing off. I am really worried about Shiji. Isa nodded. That's right. Anons, Aeolian Firmus, alone already bad enough. Sha Danan began to worry. Shushu, do you think my Shiji will be in danger? You see Anon had destroyed her opponent's sword at the first battle. We also heard the Shishang from main house was severely injured at the second battle. Isa stared at him. You worry too much. I can see that your Shiji's cultivation is far higher than yours. You better worry about yourself instead. The opponent will get stronger and stronger later on. According to you, you haven't get to pure essences Yu Qing's level 3 yet. At that time, you will get killed by one blow. Let me hold Ash. Sha Danan hesitated for a moment, then handed Ash to him. Isa cheerfully held it in his arms. Ash was not happy creak, screaming. Sha Danan sighed. You are right. Shiji's cultivation is very high. She is also beautiful, so many people like her. How it is supposed for me to worry about her? Isa held Ash tight. His eyes was fixed on Ash. It was like he will suffer some losses if he doesn't look at Ash for a second. He said casually, it's good that you understand that. You should focus on how to save yourself tomorrow. I am telling you, the opponent you are facing tomorrow is my peak of wind Devi Shishang. His cultivation is definitely cannot be compared by Chu Yuang. Especially his sword Wu Go, it is crafted by thousands years old flame copper. Very powerful. Sha Danan's eyebrows touched, said, Every one of you have good esper with you. What can I do about it? Isa's eyes was still on Ash. He was walking away. Ash, come with me. I will give you some banana, good. Xiao Fan, what did you said? Sha Danan walked with him, sighed, I really admire that you can use esper. How does that feel like? Isa shrugged, it just the same. Once you use it long enough, the esper will naturally has some response to you. Then you can use your mind to navigate your esper. It will follow you wherever you go. Sha Danan startled a little, said, response, is it like some coolness feeling? Isa's eyes were on Ash, answered, not necessary, depend on your esper's material. Sha Danan thought for a moment, then shook his head and threw away the idea in his mind, said, Shushu, the godly weapon like Aeolian Firmus, how did they crafted it? The scene must be magnificent, right? Isa looked at Sha Danan, said, how would I know? It is also the first time I see the legendary esper. Then he lowered his head and looked at Ash. Not care about Ash's angry face, he patted its hair. He said, but about response. I had read it from an ancient book. The esper that can truly connect to cultivator's heart is not some heavenly, divine esper. Sha Danan surprised, what is that? Isa said, it is the esper that added owner's blood while crafting. Use blood to fuse the materials together. The esper will usually has some evil energy and kai. But it is like become part of owner's body. Alt out the book say this is evil way, it usually crafted out some evil esper, not accepted by the good. But these type of espers can only used by the person with owner's blood, not like our espers that will surrender to higher cultivated elders. Isa stopped, discovered no one was next to him. He turned and saw Sha Danan stopped. He was lost in thought. His look was weird. Isa was bewildered. What it is, Xiao Fan? Sha Danan's body shocked, he forced himself to smile, nothing. Isa looked him, assumed that he was worrying about the contest. He went to him, smiled and patted his shoulder, rest assured. I already talked to Devi Shishong. Tomorrow contest, he won't give a hard time and let you lose no so miserable, so your master won't be mad at you. Sha Danan was still quite absent-minded, but nodded, oh, thank you. They continued walking. Isa was busy looking at Ash. Sha Danan's mind was filled with thought, didn't say anything. After a while, Ash could not take Isa any longer, it screamed angrily and scratched Isa's face. Isa thought Ash was being obedience, so he lowered his guard. This time he couldn't dodge it. Few scratch marks were added on his face, so painful that he let go of Ash. Ash regained freedom. It did not go back to Sha Danan, instead, it ran swiftly forward. It went on someone that was walking to Ash. Sha Danan startled. A lady was standing there with a red silk around her waist. It was Hidi. Just when he was about to speak, the boiled blood frozen down. Standing next to Hidi, it was a handsome young man. Isn't it Kevern? Hidi was also surprised. Ash normally sticked with Sha Danan. Today it suddenly changed and came to her unexpectedly. She actually liked that smart monkey. She patted Ash and smiled. Xiao Fan, why you are here? Sha Danan showed no expression. He said quietly, I am walking with my friend. Kevern saw Isa, he smiled and folded his hands. Seng Shidi, we meet again. Isa returned the salute, said, Chi Shishong, hello. Hidi looked at time, surprised, you two know each other. Kevern smiled. Seng Shidi is beloved son of Peak of Wind's Seng Shishu. With his family's secret teaching, he is very cultivated. He is an opponent that we must watch out for in Seven Peaks tournament. Isa chuckled. Chi Shishong, your name is shocking in Jadon. You are the lead of the disciples. How could I dare to do anything? Kevern laughed. Seng Shidi overpraised me. I don't deserve this title. Hidi noticed Sha Danan was a little weird. She went to him, said, Xiao Fan, what happened? Sha Danan shook his head, said, Shiji, you know tomorrow your opponent is Anon. You must be careful. Hidi smiled, then looked at Kevern. Kevern smiled and did not say anything. Hidi replied him with a smile, then turned to Sha Danan, I know. Kevern is highly cultivated and kind. He specially asked me out here to instruct me a few notices that I need to beware of during the contest. Sha Danan lowered his head. After a while he said, Shiji, tomorrow I have a contest with Peak of Wind's Devi Shishong. I can't cheer for you. You be careful. Hidi casually said, doesn't matter, Xiao Fan, Dad and Mom will come watch me. And beside, she peeked at Kevern, Chi Shishong will also come watch my contest. With his advice, I cannot lose. Kevin laughed. I can't promise that. Hidi turned her head back and glared at Kevin, but then she chuckled. Her white skin with faint color of pink, really enchanting. Issa could clearly see Shah Danan's eyes darken quickly, but he didn't get mad. Issa couldn't help but frown. Deep in night, the cold moon hanging on the sky. In Cloud Sea, it's silence. A lonely figure under the cold moonlight aimlessly walking. He walked on the rainbow bridge, back to the green pond. The water was as smooth as mirror. It reflected the stars, like they had fell into the water. A beautiful scene in a fine night, it was so pretty. But that person appeared not notice that. He was just staring at the water. Seemed like he was trying to recall something. After a while, his body trembled. His hands held tight like it was very painful. Then, he slowly turned his head to the dark woods near the rainbow bridge. He slowly walked to there. The moonlight shone upon Shah Danan's face, there was a little sadness. Should he just, forever stood there at the dark corner, quietly watching other people's happiness, while himself tasting his own pain? Far away, there were sound of footsteps. Dark, he quietly hiding in the woods. So late, what is Head Shishong summoning us for? Following the sound, 6 people appeared. They were the head of the 6 peaks. Tien Bolis was there. The one who just spoke was Shang Zheng Liang. Master Vasp Kalo, who was walking in the front, said, I heard Head Shishong used psychic art on Master Spirit. I am fear he had discovered something, so he asked us to come and discuss. Master Spirit, Water Kirin was the Jadon's guardian spiritual beast. It was very important. No one said anything more. Then, they were getting far away. After they were gone, Shah Danan came out from the woods. He looked at the pond. The pond was calm like usual. Master Spirit already slept. He raised his head and looked at the cold moon. When he was planning to go back, he took the fire stick out from his clothes. What Issa had told him really shocked him. But at that moment, there were no idea in his mind other than Hidi and Kevin standing together. His heart always seemed stabbed by a needle. But now, his heart was already numb. It was all empty. His souls and spirits were seen to be gone. He slowly held up the fire stick. Under the green surface, he could clearly see the thin, red threads, like blood vessels, spread all over the stick, even on the orb. Isn't that my blood? At the moment he heard what Issa told him, he had an impulse in his mind that he wanted to throw away his fire stick. But then Kevin and Hidi gave him a much more heavy blow. He could no longer care about the so-called evil item. HMPH. He laughed bitterly, even if it's evil, it's still a powerful esper. How could I be suitable for such thing? With me, isn't it the ugly fire stick? A coldness slowly rose from the fire stick and entered his body, seemed like comforting him. Esper, Esper, Shah Danan gritted his teeth, what am I? How could I know how to use Esper? Then, his voice choked. The icy energy seemed also surprised by his sadness. The coldness became more active. Shah Danan could feel it, but did not worry about it. He pretended it was just the mountain wind blew past him. He slowly raised head, looked at the fire stick. The scene of him and Hidi went to the ancient valley appeared in his brain. It was like happened in previous life. The blood vessels of fire stick slowly brighten up with green light. It was responding. Shah Danan was surprised. He remembered what Issa told him today. An uncontrollable impulse suddenly appeared in his heart. He closed his eyes. Instantly, he felt no chill even though the coldness had spread through his entire body. Around him it was silent, but he could hear a roar in deep of his heart, like countless of souls screaming in hell, with the endless grief rising in his heart. White bone, flesh blood, screaming, smell of blood. Shah Danan opened his eyes, panting. Then, he calmed his breath. His hands lay flat, his finger formed incantation mark. The black fire stick flight away from his palm. Standing in midair, with black gas and green light. In front of the fire stick, a heathly tree completely withered all of a sudden. The leaf fell on the ground. It was like its life got taken away by some force. It was the first time Shah Danan felt how closely he were with the fire stick. Even the fire stick was stopped in midair, he could still feel he is holding it. The familiar coldness had never been so strong before. A strange flesh energy was absorbed by the fire stick, and spread through Shah Danan's body. At that moment, Shah Danan heard a low whiz behind him. He turned and found the water of the pond was no longer calm. It seemed like something was surprised. He did not think more and quickly ran away. Ran across the rainbow bridge. He did not turn his head. When he finally arrived at Cloud Sea, felt there was nothing strange behind him, he stopped and gasped for breath. Then, he looked at his black fire stick again. Now, the fire stick was like usual, laying on his hand quietly. The next day, Jade on 7 Peaks tournament entered the third round. 8 platform was exactly enough for 16 disciples, start the contest at the same time. Sha Danan was assigned to Khan platform, Xavion at Li. As for Anan and Heidi's contest, they were assigned to the largest platform, Qian. According to Sha Danan's friend Issa, who he met for only 3 days, the Jadon's old men were having problem on assigning platform. But that was no wonder, Anan and Heidi's battle attracted the most people. Anan and her, Aeolian Firmus, every time when she had a contest there would be hundreds of Jadon disciples crowding around the platform. Bamboo Peaks Hidi was also well known in Jadon for her wisdom at young age. She defeated many powerful opponents in the past 2 days. She was also attractive to many young disciples. Today the 2 most outstanding, young female disciples were crossing in battle. Elders may felt sorry for them, but the Jadon disciples already surrounded the Qian platform like a steel bucket. Xavion and Sha Danan were standing in front of Tien Bolis. Tien Bolis said to Xavion, "Today your opponent is main house's Dubaku. He is very hard-working and cultivated for long time. Extremely strong in defensive magic, the opposite of your 10 tigers sword. You need to be careful." Xavion said respectfully, "Yes, master." Sha Danan felt this name was familiar. He remembered it was Dubaku who led him and Bei to Crystal Hall 5 years ago. Thought of that, it reminded him of Bei. He heard his friend had won the second round yesterday, and C is a prodigy, but Sha Danan did not get the time to congratulate him. Tien Bolis turned to Sha Danan. Sha Danan stood there, lowered his head. Tien Bolis frowned, said, "7th, you 2 need to be careful. It doesn't matter if you lose, just careful not to hurt yourself." Sha Danan's body shook. No one could see how he felt. He said quietly, "Yes, master." Xavion looked at far away, told Tien Bolis, "Master, it's not early now, Xiao Shidi and I should get going." Tien Bolis nodded. Saran smiled, "Look out for everything." Xavion answered and walked with Sha Danan to the outside of the crowd. He had a feeling that this Xiao Shidi was unusual today. He was so quiet, unlike normal days. He said to Sha Danan, "Xiao Shidi, why you did not say anything today, are you nervous?" Sha Danan looked at Xavion, forced himself to smile, but didn't answer. Xavion cheerfully smiled. "Don't think too much, and don't worry about win and lose. Although Master and Shi Niang really care about reputation, but they will not blame you. Understand?" "Yes," Sha Danan answered. His mind thought, "They don't have any hope on me anyway, of course they won't blame on me." Xavion nodded. They finally got out of the crowd. Xavion laughed. "Xiao Shidi, we will need to go different direction. Good luck to you, hope you win again." Not wait for Sha Danan to react, he laughed and walked away. Sha Danan sighed and walked toward to his platform. Below, Khan platform, most Peak of Wind disciples were there. Sha Danan could see Gao Shishong and others. Peak of Wind was an important house in Jadon. It had over 200 disciples, after Peak of Widows and Dragon Head Peak. It's appeared that they heard something from Issa. Everyone smiled to Sha Danan friendly. But for some reason, Sha Danan felt the kind smiles were all annoying, like despise to him. He expressionlessly walked onto the stage. Everyone were opposition of him. This time, Issa wasn't here, because he had his own contest too. Even if he is here, he should cheer for the Shishong of his own house. In Sha Danan's heart, there was an indescribable loneliness. On the top of the stage, facing so many people's eyes, and yet he had no friend. Because of what, why it is that he always need to face everyone himself, not even able to see a friend. A 16-years-old youngster, his heart was silently calling. He bit his lip, lowered his head. The mountain wind passed his face. Ding! The bell ring from far and near almost rang at the same time. Sounding over the Peak of Widows. Sha Danan's heart beated. The first idea came to mind is, Hidi Shiji's contest should have already begun. She must not get injured. Then his heart sorrowed, thought, she get hurt or not, when does this up to you to care? Not to mention about Master and Shi Niang are there, even Kevin said he will go there right after he quickly finish his opponent. Haha, quickly finish the opponent. Really impressive, really confident, seeing the opponent is nothing. As he was thinking, he thought that he was standing on the stage, until his opponent called for the third time, Zhang Shidi. Sha Danan suddenly awakened. He raised his head and found a peak of wind Shishang was already there in front of him. He was a huge guy, but his face was kind. He saw Sha Danan was daydreaming, and his expression was a little strange. Sha Danan flushed. The people below the stage laughed. Devi folded his hands and smiled. I am Peak of Wind disciple, Devi. Jong, please give some guidance. Sha Danan quickly said. Bamboo Peak disciple Sha Danan greeted Peng Shishang. After they greeted with each other, Devi smiled, looked at Sha Danan and then said quietly, Jong Shidi, Sing Shidi already told me about you, Sha Danan couldn't control himself, said, Peng Shishang, please give me all you got. Devi startled, then took back his smile, his right hand sliced in front of him. A sword that bright with red glow, was like it was burning by fire, was summoned. This sword, Wu Go, is crafted with the 1,000-years-old flame copper. Jong Shidi, please. Devi had turned into serious. It was like he is facing equal-level opponent. Sha Danan could feel the heat from far away. This fire was strong and fiery, very different than Chu Yuang's Xiaoyang sword's soft warmness. Sha Danan's heart beated fast. His body was shaking, but he gritted his teeth, controlled himself, and took out the black fire stick. Mean laughter came from below the stage. Sha Danan's heart was like stabbed by a needle. Devi did not laugh. He looked at the black fire stick, said solemnly, Jong Shidi, please. Sha Danan looked at this opponent. Behind the burning fire, he was like an ancient fire god. The burning flame caused smoke in the air. He couldn't see his face clearly. The black, ugly fire stick slowly left his hand and let out the green light. Although ugly, although seem weak, it stood in midair, facing the unstoppable fire. It and its owner had no sign of withdraw. One person, one fire stick, facing the entire world. The laughter stopped. They all held their breath. The ball of fire became stronger. No one knew what made it burn so vigorous. Even the Peak of Wind disciples could feel the heat. The low cultivation disciples even stepped back. Friend of Isa like Gao Shishang's face changed. They could see Devi was not going to go easy on him. He was completely going all out. The fire dragon was getting stronger, covered up most of the stage. Sha Danan's clothes, and even hair, had sign of burned. He was like in the heated oven. And then, that youngster standing there, although felt the pain, he was not stepping back. His eyes had fear but also rage. The fire in his heart was like burning in his eyes. A whistle, the fire dragon pounced, and swallowed the world. Seemed like that moment had frozen the time. Sha Danan and the fire stick entered the sea of fire. The sound of burning fire could be heard from far. Below the stage, Gao Shishang and others looked at each other in the eyes. Then, they sighed. Why it turned out like this? Chapter 27, Persist. Good. Below the Qian platform, it was like another world. Everyone were shouting loudly for the two beautiful figures on the stage. The red light of Phoenix Soul and the blue light of Aeolian Firmus shone the stage like the fairyland. But the most beautiful thing was still the two young ladies on the stage. From the beginning to now, it had lasted already 2 hours. They still hadn't able to get the result. Especially Bamboo Peak's Hidi, she had survived long under Anon's Aeolian Firmus and still had no sign of losing. Even the head of Jadon Master Doyal Shen was enjoyed by the contest. Tien Bolis and Surin were worried about Hidi. But seeing Hidi was not in any disadvantage, their hearts were relieved. Tien Bolis noticed Surin's nervous look. He said softly, relax. Ling will be fine. Surin turned and looked at her husband and smiled, then turned her attention at the platform once more. Tien Bolis shook his head, then noticed there were some disturbance behind him with the disciples. He turned his head and looked. Even with his high cultivation, he startled by what he saw. The people were moving out of the way, let out a thin path. Sha Danan was walking slowly. All his clothes were burned. Smoke even came out from some part of his clothes. On his face, hands, body, many places were burned black. They could see Sha Danan was walking with great difficulty. It seemed like every steps used up all his strength. But he was still stubbornly walking. Tien Bolis saw his youngest disciple was walking toward him. He said nothing and left his seat with his short, fat body. Surin felt something was wrong. She turned and looked at Tien Bolis. Her face immediately turned pale. She rose up. At that moment, more people were looking at this way. Sha Danan walked to the front of Tien Bolis. Tien Bolis looked at this disciple who he neglected most of the time, looked at his ignorant stubbornness. An unstoppable anger rose in his heart. The anger was so strong, people could hear the anger from his tone even if he tried hard to cover it. 7th, which guy hurted you like this? Victory is not enough for him. Saran was surprised that Tien Boli's truly got mad because of his young disciple. She pulled Tien Boli's sleeve, but her eyes landed on Sha Danan again. The Bamboo Peak disciples were too shocked to help Sha Danan. On the stage, Anon and Hidi were battling. The espers were flying around. Sha Danan looked at the stage, then to his master. He saw his master's angry face. There seemed to be an unnoticeable loving care in his face. He used his remaining strength to shake his head, said quiet, "No, master, I won." Then his head felt dizzy. The sky seemed darkened instantly. He fell on the ground and fainted. Sha Danan fell on the ground, unconscious. But the words Sha Danan said before he fell had shocked Tien Boli's as well as other Bamboo Peak disciples. After a moment, they lifted up Sha Danan's back. Tien Boli's closely examined Sha Danan. His body was burned by fire, but his inter-organs were all right. He seemed fainted due to tiredness. Tien Boli's did not know what happened in Sha Danan's contest. He noticed many people were looking them. He did not want to stand there and watched by others. He carried Sha Danan, said to Saran quietly, "I bring 7th back first. You stay there and watch Linger." Saran frowned, still nodded still. Looking Sha Danan, she couldn't hide her anxiousness any longer. The Bamboo Peak disciples circled them. Amandla said, "Master, let me come with you." Tien Boli's shook his head, said, "No need." Even Master Doyal Shen was attracted. He said, "Tien Shidi, he is your disciple. What happened?" Tien Boli's said, "His skills isn't good enough and get some light injury. I will bring him back and cure him. Please excuse me." Master Doyal Shen nodded, then he turned back to the amazing battle. A while after Tien Boli's carried Sha Danan, the disturbance was soon calmed down. The disciples were enchanted by the two beauties once again. Only small amount disciples at the outer layer of the crowd noticed a group of Peak of Wind disciples, most with ghastly pale on their face, were gathering at the platform far away. If Sha Danan is here, he would know that platform is where Isa contest take place. In Netherworld, Hall of Yama, there were fire everywhere, burning the crying people. The blood were stink and disgusting. Sha Danan felt the sky was spinning. At that instant, he was back to the peaceful village many years ago. A thunder. The dark clouds covered the mountain. Just in the blink of the eyes, the kind villagers became dead bodies. The peaceful village became a hell. "No," he shouted as hard as he could. His muscles were tensed. His heart was like stabbed. Pain came out from his chest. His body trembled and woke up. Ah, he wake up. Xiao Fan had woke up. The familiar voice that was engraved in his heart was the first came to him. The voice contained some anxious and relief. Sha Danan opened his eyes and saw Hidi. It was like, back to the time long ago. She was in all red dress with phoenix soul around her waist. Her beautiful hair falling hanging down smoothly around her neck. Sha Danan could see his reflection in Heidi's bright eyes. "Shiji," a cry from the deep of his heart. Sha Danan looked at her. His eyes did not blink. How great it is if this moment become an eternity. In the room, everyone gathered around him. Tien Boli's took his pulse, nodded, "Good. No problem now." Everyone relieved and released a smile. Sha Danan saw everyone was here. He was laying on the bed while the disciples were standing. Tien Boli's and Saran were sitting on the chairs in front of the bed. What happened?" Hidi smiled. "Are you forget already? You fainted after the contest between you and Peak of Winds Devi. It scared everyone. Lucky nothing serious." Sha Danan moved his body. Except for some tiredness, and the pain in his chest, every parts of his body were all right. He surprised, "How can this be? Aren't my body?" Tien Boli's cut it in. "The burns are just skin injuries. I used the Jade special ointment to cure it. Your body only received one damaging hit on the chest, but the bones did not get dislocated. It should be fine after few days of rest." Saran smiled, said, "Xiao Fan, you should thank your master for it. If not because of him cured you, just your burns alone will tax more than half year to recover." Sha Danan said quietly, with undescribable gratefulness, "Disciple is useless, bothered master." Tien Boli's snorted. His face turned cold. "How are you useless? The best in the Bamboo Peak is now you." Sha Danan was surprised. He did not know what Tien Boli's meant. He said, "Master, I know, like Shiji, and also Da Shishang and other Shishangs are far ahead of me, I cannot." Then his voice got quiet. He noticed the Shishongs and Heidi's faces were weird. Especially Da Shishong. He looked very pale, no like his usual energetic. Now he looked like he was about to fall down. Saran sighed, said, Daxon, bring a chair for your Da Shishong. Lu Daxon quickly answered and brought a chair for Xavion. Xavion wanted to refuse, but then his body couldn't hold out, and sat down, panting. Sha Danan was stunned. Da Shishong, what happened to you? Xavion smiled bitterly, did not reply, while he Daji said, Xiao Shidi, now 7 Peaks tournament is at 4th round, our Bamboo Peak only has you remain. Then he looked at others. Sha Danan then realized, looked at Hidi, said, Shiji, you also. Heidi's face darkened, said quietly, I lost too. Sha Danan looked at her disappointment in her eyes. His heart was hurted, but now it was not the time for him to think about something else. Tien Bolis looked closely at Sha Danan, said, 7th. Sha Danan's heart beated. He could hear the anger in Tien Bolis' voice. He began to has a little fear. Yes, master, what? Not waited for him to finish, Tien Bolis asked, your cultivation, where you learned it? A huge ring in his brain. He opened his mouth but did not know what to say. He looked at everyone in the room. The familiar kind Shishongs remained silent, looked at him with doubt. But that was expected. The Xiao Shiji who was used to be dumb suddenly became surprisingly strong. No one could accept that within such short time. Under aggressive eyes of Tien Bolis, Sha Danan sweated hard on his forehead. He almost told his master that he was practicing other factions' martial art. He was no longer the ignorant child 5 years ago. From daily conversation between his Shishongs, he already knew about the famous Skysong Temple, and also old monk Kazi's true identity. For the past years, Sha Danan had practiced, Fa and wisdom, the gratefulness in his heart had not lightened. No, disciple is dumb. These years the cultivation did not have much improvement. Sha Danan lowered his head, avoided Tien Bolis' eyes. He said slowly, few days ago, disciple suddenly able to drive some objects. Disciple himself couldn't believe it, so did not report to master, did not expect. Tien Bolis laughed coldly. Did not expect became famous from one battle. Sha Danan immediately said, no, not like that, master. Tien Bolis was not that easy to lie to. He said coldly, you said you can drive some objects, but this need to be at least Yu Qing stage level 4 to accomplish. I asked Darren, he only taught you the level 2 incarnation. Can you tell this ignorant master how did you skip level 3 cultivation and got to level 4? At the end, his voice remained cold, with some fury. Everyone's faces changed. Sha Danan did not say anything. The room was silent. Tien Bolis' face became worse and worse. Everyone was getting more anxious. Sha Danan quietly got up. Though he was tired, he still got off his bed. In front of everyone, in front of Hidi, he kneeled down before Tien Bolis. Tien Bolis said coldly, what? Sha Danan lowered his head, looked at the ground, did not look at anyone. He said quietly, master, please punish me. Tien Bolis got even more mad. Saran frowned. Xiao Fan, if you have any reason, just tell your master. Why make it like this? Tien Bolis laughed coldly. Good. You are a hard bone. I have a good disciple. Sha Danan trembled. He did not know how he feel. It seemed like there was also another person. The breath became faster. He said quietly, it is all disciple's fault. Master, please punish me. Tien Bolis suddenly rose up. The chair he sat on fallen apart. He said angrily to Sha Danan, it's all your fault, you know it is a great forbidden in Jadon to learn behind master's back. The punishment is from imprison for several decades to destroy all cultivation and expel out of Jadon, you know that. Sha Danan lifted his head and looked at Tien Bolis. He saw his master's face was filled with anger, he wasn't joking. His heart sinked. Why it turn out like this? His mind said, Hidi didn't tell him that when she gave him the incarnation. But still, he did not turn back. The room was dead quiet. No one said anything. The only sound left was the panting of people. A person's heart, in this silent, had quietly, coldly frozen. Sha Danan closed his eyes, lowered his head again. It was like he is taking his final step in his life. Disciple dishonor, master please punish. Bang, a great force hit at him. Sha Danan flight back and hit it against the wall. He fell on the ground. Large amount of blood spitted out. Xavion kneed down. Other disciples followed, said, Master, please forgive Xiao Shidi. Xavion said, Master, coughed I, it's me who did not teach him well and let him did such thing. It's all my fault, please forgive Xiao Shidi. While everyone were winning, Hidi did not move and stood there, stunned, and watched Sha Danan struggling. His body was covered with blood and his face was pale. Tian Bolis looked at the disciples and Sha Danan. The anger was still on his face. He snorted then left. Saran looked at them, sighed and shook her head, said to Xavion and others, you all can stand up. She looked at Sha Danan, then said, you guys take care of Xiao Fan, I will go see your master. Xavion and others quickly answered, yes. Saran sighed again, then left. The people looked at each other. After a while, Hidi walked slowly, and helped Sha Danan. Bubbles came out from Sha Danan's mouth. Laying in her arms, Sha Danan smiled. At that moment, a drop of tear fell on Sha Danan's blood-stained face. It was dark night now. In Cloud Sea, the cloud vapor still floating around, like the fairyland. Tian Bolis stood at the square, looked at the sky. The night sky was filled with countless of stars. The moon was cold as frost. Behind him, a familiar footstep came. Saran went by his side, looked at the stars with him, smiled, feeling better. Tian Bolis snorted, didn't say anything. Saran smiled. You can fool Darren, Linger and others, but you cannot fool me. That swing is probably intentionally shocked Xiao Fan's blood vessels near his heart, so the congested blood can get out from his body, right? Tian Bolis looked at the night sky, still remained silent. Saran shook her head, said, already hundreds years old, and still care so much about reputation. Tian Bolis turned, glared at his wife, said, you saw that. That brat was like, Master, please punish me. Tian Bolis mocked Sha Danan's tone, said angrily, it's clearly his fault, and still act like he got treated wrong, make it like the master, is abusing him, forcing him isn't it? Outrageous. Saran turned around and looked at the dormitories, said, you think I will believe you did not see that? Tian Bolis said, what? Saran said, Linger was acting strangely. Don't you think? Tian Bolis snorted. Saran smiled. You also see that? Xiao Fan had never left Bamboo Peak for 5 years, the only possibility is that our disciples taught him. Linger always being nice to Xiao Fan. She is also spoiled by us, she would dare to secretly pass them level 3 incarnation. If isn't because she felt guilty, with her normal behavior, she would already help Xiao Fan. And yet this time she said nothing. Who could that be if isn't her? Tian Bolis seemed to have expected his wife to say so. He did not seem surprised, but he still looked angry, unwillingly said, even if it's Linger's fault, look at that Sha Danan talk back to me and not telling anything, damn it. Saran chuckled, patted her husband's shoulder, scolded, aren't you the same? And you still blame on a child. And beside, Xiao Fan did that for Linger, this intention is hard to get. Tian Bolis rolled his eyes, didn't say anything. Saran looked at him, said, what are you going to do once you are back to Bamboo Peak? Learn behind master's back is great crime. For Linger, let's not punish him too hard, just lock him up in Back Mountain for 30 or 50 years. Tian Bolis startled, snorted, said, hardly our house finally got a crazy geek. Doesn't that let Vasp Kalo, Sheng Zhongliang get away too easily? Don't think about it, tomorrow don't worry about life or death, just let him continue the contest. Saran held her husband's hand, smiled, I know you are soft-hearted. Tian Bolis blushed, but quickly went back to normal. He peered around, said, we are old couple now, you don't think people will tease us? Saran looked at him, said, what, you become scared now since you are the head of the house? 300 years ago, also at Peak of Widows, didn't you went into my place at dark before 7 Peaks tournament? That time my master Zhen Yu and Shiji Shui Yu were nearby. I did not see you scare. Tian Bolis giggled. Your master Zhen Yu is already 600 years old. She is already an old fool. I don't fear her. As for your vicious Shiji, I already hated her. It's fine for her to be alone for the entire life, but she wanted to keep you with her. I hated her so much already, when did I ever fear her? Saran glared at him. Don't say bad thing about my master and Shiji, they meant a lot to me. Tian Bolis shrugged, didn't say anything. Under the moonlight, his eyes said, no matter how good they are to you, you still married me in the end. Saran couldn't help but scolded, silly-minded. Tian Bolis was in a very good mood, He held his wife's hand, walking slowly in the cloud sea. Right, I forgot an important thing. What? That brat could use a fire stick as Esper. I was too busy to be angry and forgot to take a look at it. Xiao Fan was secretly practicing cultivation. He probably doesn't know much about controlling Esper. I think you need to find a time to give him some instruction on. Huh, let's talk about it later. Last night Head Shishong summoned all heads to him. He said after using psychic art and talked to Master Spirit, he discovered Master Spirit's odd behavior was due to some evil spirit, later it couldn't find it. What are we going to do? What can be done about it? Master Spirit couldn't find it. Master Spirit lived for 6,000 years already. Your master became a fool after living for 600 years, it's not unusual if Master Spirit became a fool. Quote. Quote. Chapter 28, Top 4. Next day, the sun rose like usual. Bamboo Peak people arrived at the square. 4 of the platforms were gone, leaving 4 platforms in the 4 directions. Tian Bolis and Saran walked in the front. Sha Danan's wound seemed recovered overnight. He walked between the disciples. Suddenly everyone valued him, and it surprised him. He turned his head back and asked Amandla, 6th Shishong, is Da Shishong's injury really bad that he couldn't even walk? Amandla shook his head. Master had visited Da Shishong his morning. He said that the battle between him and Dubaku was too intense. One all offensive while one all defensive. It end up either side win. It might damage his cultivation. Sha Danan was surprised. Even Da Shishong cannot beat him, is that mean I am going to lose miserably? Amandla rolled his eyes, said, if it is following common sense that is. But because of common sense, all of your Shishongs had bet you lose for the past 2 days. Sha Danan couldn't find a word to say, closed his mouth. The platform at the north was extremely crowded. It was Anand's contest no doubt. Tian Bolis snorted as he looked at that platform. He did not have any good impression to the person who defeated his daughter. He led his disciples to the platform at west. After a few steps, Sha Danan's body shocked. He saw the group of people were coming to their direction. An old man was leading them. The person who was next to the old men was Isa. Behind them were about 100 Peak of Wind disciples. Sha Danan saw Gao Shishong and others, but he did not see Devi. Like noticed Sha Danan's eyes, Isa said as their shoulders passed, Peng Shishong did not come, he is resting in his room. Sha Danan managed to smile. But he saw Isa's face was solemn, his eyes were cold. The leading old man was Peak of Wind disciple Seng Shu Chong. He looked at Sha Danan. Sha Danan felt that old man's eyes were not shape, but it seemed able to look into his deepest heart. He curled in a bit. Tian Bolis said, hello Seng Shishong. Seng Shu Chong replied, hello Tian Shidi. I heard your house have a prodigy named Sha Danan. His cultivation was unique and almost killed my useless disciple Devi in yesterday contest. Sha Danan was surprised. What? Peng Shishong was hurted that badly? The Peak of Wind disciples were discussing of how that person malicious is. Injured someone and pretended to be surprised, showing himself was unintentional or insult Devi. Anger flashed in Seng Shu Chang's eyes. But he could not release it in front of younger generation. He smiled coldly, said, Tian Shidi, you had cultivated a good disciple. Tian Bolis was frowned and thought Sha Danan was a bad speaker. But after he heard what Seng Shu Chong said and noticed the sarcasm within, he immediately smiled, you flattered me Seng Shishong. Xiao Fan, come and greet Seng Shishu. Sha Danan startled. Seng Shu Chong waved his sleeve, said coldly, no need, then walked away. Isa looked at Sha Danan and said, I did not see you are actually hiding your strength all along. I asked Peng Shishong to go easy on you, did not expect this actually caused trouble for him. Sha Danan said quickly, I did not. He hadn't finished, Isa already walked away. The Peak of Wind people followed. Everyone's eyes were icy cold. But when he looked at Gao Shishong winked to him. He startled, but Gao Shishong already walked away. Tian Bolis peered at the Peak of Wind people. He smiled coldly, then he waved his hand and led the people to the west platform for today's contest. As they got near, they discovered there were about 200 people had gathered. It seemed like beside Anand's platform, the most crowded place in Cloud Sea was here. Sha Danan was amazed, asked the Shishongs, so many people. That Dubaku Shishong is surely strong. They laughed. Hidaji said, Chong Shishong cultivation is high for sure. But I think they come here to see you most likely, Xiao Shidi. Sha Danan was surprised. How's that? Hidaji chuckled. Until now, only 8 people remain in the 7 Peaks tournament. The largest black horse is you. Who doesn't want to come see how many mouth or arms you got? Sha Danan was muted. Tien bullies lead them to the platform. The people moved out of the way when they saw it was the bamboo peak. Many disciples were from Peak of Widows. Because Dubaku had a contest today, most disciples from main house were here. But there were not many elders from main house, even Master Doyal Shen was not here. Tien bullies frowned, asked Surin, Head Shishong is not here, is there anyone from main house has today? Surin shook her head, said, no. For some reason, the disciples, quality of main house this year are not that good. Only Dubaku remain now. Tien bullies pondered, then walked to the 6 chairs located right below the stage. Only a white-beard old man sat there. He rose up as he saw Tien bullies arrived. Sha Danan startled. It was the white-beard old men in the contest between him and Chu Yu Wang. The white-beard old men seem also remembered him. His eyes landed on Sha Danan for a moment then turned to Tien bullies. Tien Shishong, I can never imagine your house have such prodigy this year. Tien bullies seem have good relationship with this senior. He smiled, said, Tara Shishong overpraise me. Please sit. The bell rang. Tien bullies turned to Sha Danan, said, 7th, go up there. Hundreds of eyes landed on Sha Danan at that instant. Sha Danan had never been stared by that many people before. He flushed, answered, yes. Then he walked to the stage without looking back. But then he was pulled by Surin. Sha Danan was surprised. Xiniang, what it is? Surin smiled, said with loving care, does your body still hurt? Sha Danan shook his head. Master himself had cured me, it's almost recovered. Surin shook her head also, said, outside is easy to be recovered but the inside is hard. Xiao Fan, Dubaku you are facing isn't a common opponent, even your Da Shishong lost to him. Though according to your Da Shishong, Dubaku was also severely injured after he won, but with your cultivation you still couldn't I am afraid. Just give up when you can't hold out. Don't take risk and get injured, understand? Sha Danan didn't nod, but murmured, Master will be mad. Surin shook her head smiling. Silly child, just go. Your master worries so much about you. Sha Danan immediately turned and looked at Tien bullies, and saw Tien bullies was chatting with the white-beard old men. He did not look at him. Surin patted his head, said, go. Sha Danan walked slowly onto the stage. He stood there with what Surin just said. Your master worries so much about you. Since he was young, Tien bullies was no different than God in his mind. Although Tien bullies did not treat Sha Danan well, to get his master's approval was Sha Danan's greatest wish. And now, heard what Surin suddenly said, he could not believe it. The people below the stage began to feel not right. After a while, even Sha Danan felt something was wrong, his opponent still hadn't arrived yet. The disciples from main house was worrying. They kept looking around. At that moment, a main house disciple was running toward them. He rushed to the white-beard old man and whispered to him. The white-beard old man couldn't believe what he had heard, asked, really? That disciple looked at the stage, and finally nodded. The white-beard old man's face turned pale, fell back into the chair. Tien bullies was puzzled, asked, Tara Shishong, what happened? The white-beard old man looked at him weakly. He sighed and pulled himself back together, rose up and announced, main house disciple Dubaku, due to the injuries yesterday contest, he give up today contest. It was silent. After a moment, the crowd rose into an uproar. Though the Jadon disciples were cultivators, many of them cursed. As for the Bamboo Peak people, the first reaction of them was not cheer, but a weird look. They looked at each other for a while, then smiled bitterly. Tien bullies and Surin slowly rose up, staring at their young disciple on the stage. Surin smiled, said quietly to Tien bullies, I already said it. This small disciple's luck is not common. Tien bullies couldn't say anything, but bitterly smiled. That day, it seemed like everyone wanted to look at Sha Danan like he was a precious beast. At the same time, the contest result came out. Sha Danan was fortunate to be able to list into the semifinal along with Kevin, Anan, and Isa. Many people already expected Kevin to win the tournament. Anan was also extremely popular for the past few days. But Isa and Sha Danan entered semifinal was out of many Jadon's elders' expectation. Isa was known for being Seng Shuchang's only son. Though many people of Peak of Wind knew Isa was very talented, but he was not well known in Jadon. During the contest, he defeated many opponents with his flawless magic skills, amazed many people. In comparison, Sha Danan was seem out of spot within the four people. On the stage, the four people stood shoulders to shoulders. The head of the faction Master Doyal Shen and head of Dragon Head Peak Master Vasp Kalo stood in front of them. Master Doyal Shen had a smile on his face, could not see any unsatisfied for none of his disciples remain in Seven Peaks tournament. Below the stage, near 1,000 disciples were gathered. All the Jadon's elders were sitting in the front. Saran looked at the stage, whispered to Tien Bolis, Xiao Fan seem a bit nervous. Tien Bolis snorted, did not say anything. How could he not see what his wife was able to see? Onto the stage, Kevin was cool and calm, Anan was cold as frost, Issa was smiling, only Sha Danan was standing there, looking at the ground, both hands did not know where to put. Master Doyal Shen looked at the four people. He smiled, turned to the disciples below the stage. Everyone, the Seven Peaks tournament had selected our top 4 disciples. Their talent surpass many people, amazing cultivation. They are our Jadon's elite, burdened with the future of Jadon clan. Suddenly someone below the stage laughed. Then, Jadon disciples burst into laughter. Master Doyal Shen frowned, peered at Sha Danan who was the youngest out of the 4. He shook his head. The laughter continued, the solemn situation turned into clownery. Master Vasp Kalo stepped forward. His eyes were like blade, sweep across the crowd. The laughter instantly extinguished. It soon returned to silent. Vasp Kalo had in charge of Jadon's punishment for years. The disciples feared him more than Master Doyal Shen. Wait until it returned to absolute silent. Master Vasp Kalo stepped back, said to Master Doyal Shen, Head Shishang, please. Master Doyal Shen smiled. I don't have much to say, Vasp Kalo Shidi, you go. Master Vasp Kalo nodded, announced, tomorrow contest, Dragon Head Peak Kevern vs Peak of Wind Issa, Bamboo Height Anan vs Bamboo Peak Sha Danan. Master Vasp Kalo kept on talking. Everyone's eyes turned to him. Sha Danan could finally relax. Many people were looking at him, so he almost could not breathe. Why you sweat so much? Suddenly, Issa asked quietly. Sha Danan was surprised. After he defeated Devi yesterday, Issa was being cold to him. He did not expect Issa would talk to him. Though they only knew each other for 3 days, Sha Danan had seen Issa as his friend. He looked at Issa, and saw he was standing there looking forward, smiling to the disciples below the stage. It was like he had never spoken to Sha Danan. Idiot, don't turn your head. Issa's face did not change, only the corner of his lips moved. You had made my dad to scold me half dead. Sha Danan immediately turned his head away, whispered, sorry, is Peng Shishang alright? Although Peng Shishang is heavily injured, but it's not too bad. He will recover after few days, or else why I am not make you to pay back. But I can never expect you are really hiding your strength. No, alas, I did not know what happened. I think it must be Peng Shishang went easy on me, and my head was burned so. I asked Peng Shishang, though he lost, he praised a lot about you. He said he had gave all he got, did not go easy. So you don't need to worry about it. Sha Danan surprised again, then he asked, then about your dad scolded you. That is because Gao Shishang and his idiots were having a big mouth, told my dad about me asking Peng Shishang to go easy on you. Peng Shishang was trying to help me, but dad scolded me, otherwise I won't pretend to be like this in front of people. Shushu, I am really sorry. That was nothing, don't mention it. I got scolded all the time when I was young anyway. But you bastard need to be careful tomorrow. Next battle is against Bamboo Heights Icy Beauty. Careful not to get killed by Aeolian Firmus. Sha Danan said sadly, I know that too. It will be great if the contest place me against you. Then he stopped. He and Issa felt a frozen chill. They turned and saw Anan's cold eyes were on them. Sha Danan was stupefied. Issa gasped. They stopped talking and pretended listening Master Vasp Kalo's reminder. After Master Vasp Kalo finished, the disciples were dismissed, prepared for tomorrow climax of the tournament. Sha Danan and Issa walked down the stage, they could feel the chill on their back. They wondered as Anan came from Northern Ice Plain. Their hearts were frozen just from one stare. Just when he wanted to say goodbye to Issa, he said Issa changed his face, looked at him contemptuously and snorted, walked away. Surrounded by Peak of Wind disciples, Issa's father was looking at them. Sha Danan smiled bitterly, then turned and walked to the Bamboo Peak people. Tien Bolis looked at him, said, let us return. Then he looked at Hidi, said, Linger, come with me, your mother and I want to speak with you. Hidi answered and smiled to Sha Danan before she left. They returned to the dormitory. Once they were back to the room, Wu Dia and others quickly told Xavion the good news. Ludaxin held up Sha Danan and laughed. Only Amandla kept shaking his head, said, God has no ears or eyes. Chapter 29, Supreme Art. The night returned. Sha Danan couldn't go to sleep. Even Ash's eyes were also opened, looked at him. Other Shishongs were already snoring. Big Yella also fell asleep. Moonlight was like water, came in from the window. It landed on the ground like snow. Sha Danan quietly got up, Ash immediately jumped into his arms. Sha Danan carried it, patted its head, and walked outside. Not a sound at the corridor. It was silent. He smiled bitterly. Since he arrived at Peak of Widows, he never had a good sleep. Thinking of the contest tomorrow against Anon, there was still an undescribable nervous in his heart. In his arms, Ash uneasily moved. Sha Danan looked at it, and found its eyes were staring at the shadow in front. In the dark, a figure passed by. Sha Danan followed it. The figure did not ran fast. The shoulders kept shrugging, it was like that person was crying. Sha Danan could recognize that person was Hidi. He was puzzled, but seeing his Shiji was crying, a pain was in his heart. Hidi went to the Cloud Sea, arrived near the central platform. Seeing no one was nearby, she couldn't hold it anymore, fell on ground and let out the cry. Sha Danan had never seen his Shiji was so sad before. He went to her side, said quietly, Shiji, you. Hidi was surprised. She jumped up and turned around. She was relieved to see it was Sha Danan. Then her heart soured, couldn't help but threw herself on Sha Danan, cried on his shoulder. Sha Danan's body was petrified, couldn't move. Her sound of sob was next to Sha Danan's ear. He could feel the warmness from her body. It was like his dream had came true. A faint delicate fragrance came. Sha Danan stood there, looking far away. Even though he really wanted to hold that lady, but he did not. Perhaps, truly embarrass you, the life will be different. Hidi left his shoulder. Sha Danan's heart became empty, like he had lost something. His shoulder was wet with tears. Hidi rubbed her eyes, looked at Sha Danan's shoulder, said, sorry, Xiao Fan. Sha Danan shook his head, said, Shiji, what happened to you? Just when Hidi was about to speak, creak creak, sound came near their feet. They looked down and saw Ash. She bended down and held Ash. It had never ever been like this, Xiao Fan, never ever. That lady stand in the moonlight under the darkness of night. Sad and beautiful, she said to Sha Danan with some grief, Dad and Mom had never scolded me like this before. Seeing this beauty within the sorrow, Sha Danan's heart was like teared apart, like all her sadness was brought by him. He forced himself to remain calm. He asked gently, Shiji, what happened? Why Master and Xiniang scolded you? Hidi hesitated, looked at Sha Danan. Since young, this Xiao Shidi was her closest playmate beside her parents. In her mind, she thought of an idea, when did Xiao Fan Shidi became so gentle to me? But this idea was only just a flash and passed by. Her heart was filled with grief at that moment. She cried to Sha Danan, isn't it all because of Brother Kevern? Sha Danan's face instantly became pale. He held his fists tight, so tight that his nails went into his palms. You still don't know it. Hidi was no longer aware of Sha Danan, but in Sha Danan's heart, he was shouting wildly, I know, I already know it. The moon coldly shone upon this earth. Kevern Shishong and I in love with each other. I told them, I am really in love with him. Hidi calmed down a little, but hadn't discovered, each time she spoke, Sha Danan became more pale. But Dad scolded me loudly, said I am ignorance. Even my mom who always loved me stood on Dad's side. Why it is like this, Xiao Fan? Sha Danan lowered his head, did not want Hidi to see his face. He said quietly, how did Master and Xiniang know? Hidi did not discover something was wrong about Sha Danan. She almost cried again. I could never expect this. I found it out later. Bamboo Heights Bako Shiji told this to Shui Yu Shishu. Shui Yu Shishu told my mom. I reminded Bako Shiji so many times not to tell anyone about this, but she still let it out. I. A drop of tear came out from her eyes. Sha Danan said sadly, perhaps Master and Xiniang are doing it for your own good. They are your parents, they won't be bad to you. Hidi dried out her tears, said loudly, what do they know? They only know the difference of houses. They only know Brother Kevern is head of Dragon Head Peak Master Vasp Kalo's favor. They only know if people know I am with Brother Kevern they will be ashamed in Jadon. They had never think of me. She said with anger indefinite, those reputation compared to my happiness, what are they? I really doubt they care about reputation or their daughter. Sha Danan lifted his head, looked at this unfamiliar Shiji. How sad are these eyes? Like a small bird without its parents in the storm. How weak. Sorrow with panic had stabbed his soul like a blade. Sha Danan seemed immediately defeated by these eyes. A sadness that had never happened before, rose up in his heart. If he could help this lady to carry her pain, no matter how difficult it is he will carry it. But he did not know what to say, all he said was, Shiji. I need to be with him, Hidi said certainly. Instead to say it was to Sha Danan, rather to say this was for her heart, for Tien Bolis and Surin who were not here, I must stay with Brother Kevern. We had made a vow, no matter how hard my parents disapprove, even wait until the sea dry up, the stone rotten, we will still be together. She looked at the night sky, swore to the bright moon. The moonlight quietly shone upon her. Her beauty was like the grieve lily bloomed at night, completely ignored the heart-dead shadow standing next to her. Standing on the stage, the sun of early dawn shone upon Sha Danan. Warmed his body but not his heart. He stood there expressionless facing the fairy like Anon. The Frost Lady's scorn was so obvious. In the square, everyone knew Sha Danan mostly rely on luck instead of strength to get to semifinal. Behind her, Aeolian Firmus was glowing with blue light. Sha Danan looked at this legendary item, he thought lightly, after a while, is it what he is going to face? Then, he totally forgot this question. Since last night, his mind was going up and down. In Cloud C, only 2 platform left. If talk about numbers of disciples watching, the people who were watching Kevern and Issa at West was not even 1/3 of the people here. Almost everyone was drew by the most popular Anon and the luckiest Sha Danan. As for the elders, most were sitting below this platform include Master Doyal Shen. But, after everyone cheered when Anon arrived on the stage, they were discussing how fast Sha Danan would lose, in the blink of the eyes or in a second. Below the stage, Tien Bolis frowned. He knew the level of cultivation Sha Danan is at. But with all the disdain behind him, it made him very uncomfortable. Surin who was sitting next to him was looking around, searching for Hidi. After the argument last night, Hidi went away crying. With her understanding of her daughter, she was afraid Hidi went to watch Kevern's contest. She shook her head, although she really loved her only daughter, but this time she completely stood on her husband's side. She always thought the people from Dragon Head Peak were not that good. She turned and looked at the stage. At the same time, Sha Danan also turned and looked at them. Their eyes met. Sha Danan did not see the person he was looking for. He turned away quietly. Surin frowned, said to Tien Bolis, Xiao Fan look a bit strange today. Like half dead. Tien Bolis said lightly, he is only nervous. Child never faced such great situation before, not surprising. Surin became quiet, did not continue. Sha Danan turned back and looked at Anon. Under the sunlight, her beautiful face was shining. Soon, Anon felt Sha Danan's eyes and shown disdain again. But this time, Sha Danan did not avoid. He did not even felt her scorn. That beautiful face meant nothing to him. Only his heart was saying quietly, painfully, she is not here. She went to watch Kevern's contest. Anon quickly discovered that Sha Danan was only using his eyes to look at her, while his hollowness told her that he was actually thinking about something else and ignored her existence. This was Anon's first time experience it. Her eyes shone a slight of surprise. Ding! The bell rang, sounding over Peak of Widows. The surrounding quickly quiet down. Anon straightened her body, took a deep breath. Only need to win 2 more battle, only 2 more, and she could make her dream real and reach her master's expectation. Aeolian Firmus brightened up behind her back. Bamboo Height disciple Anon, please leave guidance. Sha Danan was like waking up from dream. His first reaction was not to salute, but to search through the crowd with his eyes. So many people, but none is the one he is searching for. Anon's face changed. The Jadon disciples below the stage were also in an uproar. This person was the first one that being impolite to Anon. Tien Bolis and Surin noticed this disciple was really not right today. Sha Danan slowly turned his head. His face was like dying embers, said lightly, I am Bamboo Peak disciple Sha Danan. Shiji please don't hold back. Anon startled. People normally said polite thing before the contest, but Sha Danan looked weird, who will say don't hold back. It sounded like sarcasm, but he did not look like it. Anon was the favorite disciple of Master Shui Yu, her mind was strong. Her face did not change. Not speaking anymore, she held out her right hand, Aeolian Firmus slowly rose up in the air. Sha Danan looked at that bright blue light getting darker and darker, brighter and brighter. It had turned his entire body blue. He could not feel any more nervousness, instead, he was like long awaited. He took out his ugly and black fire stick. Laughter bursted from below the stage. Compared to the noble, Aeolian Firmus, his fire stick was like a ugly worm. And at this moment, it was like a dead, ugly worm. The icy cold feeling filled his body again. For some reason, the fire stick seemed excited today. The circulation of the cold energy appeared to be faster than usual. Sha Danan could even felt if not because he was blood bonded with the fire stick, if not because he was holding the fire stick would already charge at Anon. No, it was not charge at Anon, it was to Aeolian Firmus. This strange feeling was like two deeply hated enemies. At that moment, Anon's face also changed a little. The glow of Aeolian Firmus was too bright, even she was puzzled by it. But Sha Danan had no will to think. He looked at this beautiful girl in blue glow. He suddenly discovered she was like Shiji. But this, Shiji, was looking at him coldly. On the stage, an unexpected thing happened. Sha Danan and Anon did not make a move. They just stared at each other. The people were in a discussion. Anon realized Aeolian Firmus was having weird behavior. But she used her mind to check, there were nothing abnormal. Aeolian Firmus just seemed a little overly excited. Feeling the numberless eyes below the stage, Anon frowned, focus her mind. She snorted, kicked out all ideas in her mind. Aeolian Firmus brightened, rose into the sky, but it still had its sneath on. Since the beginning of Seven Peaks tournament, Aeolian Firmus became the main focus of many people. Until now, Anon defeated all her opponents without unsheath her sword. This caused many people to wonder who can make Anon to actually draw out her sword. Many people guessed during the final battle, with Kevern's cultivation, he should able to do it. The blue light shined on Sha Danan's face, but could not reflect any of his expression. Black fire stick glowed with faint green light, slowly left his hand and stopped in midair. Even they had already took a look at the fire stick before, but everyone here, including the Bamboo Peak people, was the first time seeing Sha Danan cast magic. Amandla snorted. If not because I see it with my own eyes, I cannot believe the foolish Xiao Shidi have suddenly become a gifted genius. On the stage, Anon held her incarnation mark tight. Aeolian Firmus turned and charged at Sha Danan with unstoppable momentum. Fire stick immediate went forth. The mystic green light crashed with the bright blue light in midair. It was like the fire stick did not fear this momentum. At the next moment, under the stunned eyes of the audiences, Sha Danan appeared to be vulnerable and received a hard blow. He fell backward, the fire stick lost its glow, and flight back to its master. The Bamboo Peak people rose up, some screamed out like Amandla. Sha Danan's back hit it on the pillar and fell on the floor. Blood spitted out from his mouth, landed on the fire stick. Without anyone's notice, the blood was absorbed. The power of Aeolian Firmus had shocked everyone. Anon's cold face without sense of hesitation, the blue light flashed, the Aeolian Firmus heartlessly chopped at Sha Danan from midair. Black gas suddenly rose from the fire stick. The green light was getting brighter. With blood on the corner of his lip, he slowly got up. Face pale but eyes red, a savage look. The fire stick already rushed toward Aeolian Firmus within the black gas and green light. The two espers met in midair then immediately bounced off. Anon and Sha Danan could feel their body shocked. The blue and green lights were flying across the sky. The giant, hard woods of the platform were drifted like paper scraps. The sound was like thunder's roar. Not a single Jadon could remain normal. Since the beginning of the contest, there were no battle was as exciting, magnificent as this one. Just after a while, the entire platform had completely fell apart due to the power of two esper. The surrounded audiences had backed up for a distance away from the platform. Sha Danan and Anon were floating in midair. Anon's both hands held incarnation mark, focus on controlling the esper, the posture was serious and cool. Sha Danan on the other hand was a bit strange. Although the fire stick is surprisingly powerful, he did not held incarnation mark but gesturing in midair, and the fire stick followed his will, battled with Aeolian Firmus. Even like that, Sha Danan had the suffer that could not tell. The power of Aeolian Firmus was far greater than he could imagine. Every time fire stick hit Aeolian Firmus, channels of his body shocked. If not because he had practiced, Fa and wisdom, to strengthen his channels, and protected him, and managed to within Aeolian Firmus godly power, he would already dead. Anon did not seem to feel anything. Under her control, the blue light was brighter and brighter, gradually suppressed the fire stick's black gas and green light. Sha Danan was complaining in his heart over there, Anon here was also surprised. Her opponent's fire stick could have equal amount of spirit force, it also had a draining force. It kept draining her vigor. If not because she had a stable foundation, she feared she couldn't control her blood inside of her. Thinking of that, Anon felt the blood rushed into her brain again, and almost lost balance in midair. Her mind became angry and anxious. From the battle, she could tell her opponent's cultivation in pure essence is far behind of herself, but his esper was so weird and powerful, even Aeolian Firmus could only gain the upper hand in surface. Anon gritted her teeth, face flushed with pink, her clothes fluttered without wind. After another hit between Aeolian Firmus and the fire stick, Sha Danan's entire shocked, the fire stick also slowed down. Aeolian Firmus flight back. Anon held out her right hand and held Aeolian Firmus. At the instant her hand touched Aeolian Firmus, the blue light glowed so bright that it swallowed her body. Aeolian Firmus let out a loud bang like dragon's roar. Anon and Aeolian Firmus rose straight into the sky. Sha Danan already forgot everything around him. With his bond between him and the fire stick, Sha Danan could feel the fire stick was almost like alive. It was very excited, a strength savage thinking rose in his brain. He stood in midair, roared at the sky. The sound shocked earth, the sky changed. The black gas and green light rose into the sky. The fierce wind blew, the cloud whirl. Suddenly, the blue light flashed, the whistle sound increased quickly, until it was deafening, no one could hear any other sound. The blue light concentrated together, formed a giant pillar, and struck from above the head. It was like it is going to cut Mount Jadon in half. Sha Danan's face twisted. His eyes, nose, mouth and ears were bleeding. But his eyes had no sense of fear. He also held the fire stick. The black gas and green light were like holding in his hand, and faced the blue light pillar. The Jadon disciples held their breath. No one underestimated Sha Danan anymore. The elders, look changed. This contest is a battle of life and death. But why, no one come to stop. Bang, like a thunder. It seemed like the entire peak of Widows shook. The blue light backed up. Anna reappeared in the sky, holding Aeolian Firmus, a stream of blood flowed out slowly from her mouth. Below the stage, Master Shui Yu stood up. In midair, Sha Danan could only hear the wind next to his ears. His eyes were blurred. The blood almost covered his eyes. If he can hear, he will hear the screaming from the Bamboo Peak people from below. Saran's lips lost color. Seeing the small disciple covered by blood in midair, she hurriedly said to Tien Bolis quietly, "Buyi, let Xiao Fan give up, hurry tell him give up." Tien Bolis's body shook, stared at midair, then slowly shook his head. Could no longer feel any pain. In the ever-changing sky, an idea suddenly passed through Sha Danan's mind. After I died, will Shiji going to visit me? After many years, many of happiness days, is she going to forget about me? He rubbed the eyes, the blood, and the water. Anon felt extreme pain in her body. The energy in her channels were unrest, like was about to leave her body and cheer for the savage devil within the horrified green light, black gas. It was already the life and death moment. It was already the eternal instant. That beautiful lady stood in wild wind. Let the wind blew at her face like blades, she still not back up. She lifted her head, looked at the sky. Wind suddenly stopped, frozen in the air. The world, suddenly quiet, stopped at that moment. Bang! A low roar scene came from heaven, sounding within the earth. Anon drew out divine sword Aeolian Firmus. The blue light disappeared, like a giant dragon sucking in the water, the blue light was absorbed by the clear blade edge. The Peak of Widows was silent. The 1,000 years Aeolian Firmus finally unsheathed. Anon's face was cold as frost, her hand held the sword mark, took 7 steps in 7 stars position. Walked 7 steps in midair. The sword pointed toward the sky. Her face was completely pale, her mouth worded the incantation. Rage of 9 skies, turn to divine thunder. Might of heaven, arrive at this sword. Then, the originally clear sky turned dark. Dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. Sound of thunder was roaring. The lighting flashed at the edge of the clouds. Fierce wind blew. Sha Danan opened his mouth. This scene had appeared in his memory of long time ago. On the ground, all the elders and even Master Doyal Shen stood up, turned and looked at Master Shui Yu with an unbelievable look on their faces. After a moment, Tian Bolis said, "You have raised a good disciple." Master Shui Yu ignored everyone. Her cold face eventually shone worry, watched the two people. Thunderblade. Master Doyal Shen slowly moved his eyes away. His heart was shocked. He could never imagine in Jadon, within the young disciples, there can be such extraordinary talented person. But, looked at this female disciple's face, although she was able to cast this type of amazing magic, her body was shaking, face was pale. It seemed her strength had reached its limit. The thunder howl was getting more rapid. Sha Danan could feel the fire stick was filled with energy at moment Aeolian Firmus was unsheathed. It was like the blood-bonded Esper shouted from its heart. It was like it had waited for his moment for 1,000 years. The sky was getting darker, the dark clouds were covering the head. A swirl appeared in the thick clouds. Chapter 30. Suspect. Like the path to Nether, the dark, bottomless, giant swirl hung upside down on the sky. Like the devil opened its mouth and about to swallow everything of the world. Fierce wind was freezing, the wind gathered the clouds. Thunders were howling, lightning were flashing. Sha Danan flight toward Anon. The green light of fire stick flashed, very noticeable under the dark clouds. Anon looked at figure of Sha Danan who was surrounded by green light, her face paled. Thunderblade was the highest level of Taoist art. Using normal body to summon the might of heaven of earth, it was clear pressure of Anon bearing was extremely heavy. Aeolian Firmus was a godly weapon, a prefect weapon for casting Thunderblade. But even with that, Anon's cultivation practice was not enough for that. She could feel coming from the dark clouds, wave after wave of energy rushed into her body like angry tide. Though no one could see anything weird on the outside, her blood was boiling, like swelled by the great force. If not because Aeolian Firmus kept absorbing the energy, Anon would probably already fall. The wind whistled, the thunder roared. She stood in midair, she almost thought she was a powerless grass in the wind. The next moment, she recalled what her master said when she taught her this skill. Xueqi, the fine quality of you is the only one I met in my entire life. But this inclination is too strong, the backfire power is hard to withstand. Your cultivation is still basic, though you can manage to cast it, never cast it if not necessary, otherwise you are risking your life. Bang! A thunder burst right above Peak of Widows. Everyone could feel the earth below them was slightly shaking. It was like the ancient god of thunder was awakened from sleep, and roared in anger. Everyone's color changed. Sha Danan was only 20 feet away. By looking at this situation, everyone knew once Anon is done with channeling, he will turn into dust. But Sha Danan stopped, it was like he hit it on a soft wall, couldn't advance any farther. Sha Danan's face turned to dead pale. Thunderblade is one of the Jadon's final art, so amazing that it formed an invisible barrier while channeling. So Sha Danan could not advance. The fire stick getting brighter, but still couldn't advance. In comparing spiritual strength, fire stick is definitely not weaker than Aeolian Firmus, but in comparing cultivation, the difference is too much. He only used his own spirit to drive the fire stick, it could never match Anon's supreme art that refined by many Jadon's masters for thousands years. At that hopeless moment, just when the swirl became more rapid, lighting flashing, the light of Aeolian Firmu getting brighter, the moment of this supreme art was about to complete, Anon's body suddenly shocked, the white face turned red, and spitted out large amount of blood. The light of Aeolian Firmus became unstable. Anon gritted her teeth, closed her eyes, and focused her mind, spirit on Aeolian Firmus. After a moment, the light became stable. It was getting even brighter, so bright that could not look at with eyes. A bang came from the dark clouds. A light came from the deepest of the giant swirl. It was a combine of numerous of lighting. It was aiming at Anon's Aeolian Firmus. But, hopelessness rose in Anon's heart. Just as she had expected, a sharp whistle came. She was focusing on protecting Aeolian Firmus and ignored the barrier. Without the barrier, Sha Danan and the fire stick formed a green light pillar, charged at the beautiful lady in the wind. Is that it? Everything end here? Her heart calmed down, her mind lightly thinking. At that instant, just at that short instant, the world was quiet, frozen, everything fixed there. Only she was standing in midair, clothes and hair fluttering. She reopened her eyes, watching the green light charged at her. That moment was like eternity. Sha Danan saw her, and her eyes. She stood there alone in the storm, so quietly facing the might of heaven. Only her face was a bit pale. Her eyes had a bit sorrow, a bit panic. The wind screamed, the world was lonely, and that beautiful lady, quietly looking at him, whose eyes were so sorrow and lonely. It was like last night, that person was hurted by love. This pain, deeply entered the marrow, deeply entered the soul. Deeply, deeply, is she the lady that love other person? The one that you will never regret to think about her for entire life? Sha Danan suddenly smiled, with grief and hopeless, just like last night. The fire stick entered the light of Aeolian Firmus. No one could see the two figures anymore and could not see the light of fire stick had suddenly dimmed. At that moment, a giant lighting came from the sky, landed at Aeolian Firmus. The whole world, all the gods, seemed like at the same time, sang together. The giant light pillar reflected from Aeolian Firmus, with earth-crashing momentum, struck at Sha Danan. At the critical moment, fire stick rose up, blocked in front of its master. At next moment, Sha Danan had swallowed by the light. Long time, long time, long time, the dark clouds scattered, the light disappeared. The people stared at the sky, watched the young man holding his black fire stick, like a rock covered with scars, falling. He did not fall on the ground. Tien Bolis swiftly appeared below him like a shadow, and caught Sha Danan. He immediately opened Sha Danan's mouth, took out a vial and poured the yellow pills into Sha Danan's mouth. The pills dissolved quickly in Sha Danan's mouth. Tien Bolis did not say anything. He jumped up and Flame Spirit rose up, carried him away. He did not look at the square for one more time, and judging by which direction he was going, it was to Bamboo Peak. Saran and other Bamboo Peak people quickly followed. At that time, Anon landed on the ground and soon surrounded by the ecstatic Bamboo Height disciples. She silently looked at the sky, looked at the red light in the sky. He was like slept for thousands years. Wanted to wake up but the eyes could not open. In the endless darkness, only he alone. He definitely did not wish to walk in the darkness alone, but beside darkness, there is nowhere else for him to go. So he became angry, fire burned in his heart. So he swore to the Lord of Netherworld. Even if his body and soul turned into ash, he wanted to have a bit of light, and bury everything of the world together with him. The anger since ancient time was wild like the beginning. Sha Danan slowly opened its eyes. Soft light shined into his eyes. The familiar smell floating inside of the room. Here, seemed like no one is here. He slowly sat up. Just when he raised his hand and wanted to rub away the sweat on his forehead, a heart-tearing pain came from his shoulder, chest, and stomach. He gasped and face turned pale. He sat on the bed, did not dare to move. After a while, the pain was gone. It was afternoon now. The door was closed. The two windows were opened. He could faintly see the green bamboos in the courtyard. Big Yella and Ash were not here. Are they looking for meat bones again? He smiled. In this empty room, he smiled to himself. The door was pushed open. Saran came in. Sha Danan moved a little, said, Xiniang, hadn't stand up, his face was already twisted together from the pain. Saran quickly walked to him and sat on the bed, softly said, Don't move, Xiao Fan. Sha Danan waited for the pain to ease a little, then said, Disciple did not know Xiniang is coming. Saran glared at him, said, Life is already half lost, you still have the heart to remember this manner. Don't talk about rubbish, sit up. Sha Danan giggled. Saran examined him, said, Your outer injuries are almost recovered, but the inner channel's damage too serious. It won't work if you don't rest well. Sha Danan said, Yes. Disciple had disgraced master and Xiniang, I am so sorry. Saran cut it in, said, It's you had made your master proud. For 300 years, beside your master, no other disciple was as remarkable as you in Seven Peaks tournament. Sha Danan blushed, said, That is because disciple has good luck. Saran smiled, patted his shoulder. Sha Danan remembered, asked, Contest is over right? Who won? Is it Lu Shiji? Saran shook her head, said, No, it's Dragon Head Peak's cavern. Sha Danan felt unknown sorrow in his heart, said quietly, So it's Qi Shishang. He is really powerful, even Lu Shiji with Aeolian Firmus lose to him. Saran heard what he said, and seemed reminded her of something. She sighed and changed topic. Your injuries this time are not light. Your master used a lot of effort to save you. According to him, using Aeolian Firmus to cast Thunderblade, although Anon's cultivation isn't strong enough, if not your fire your Esper blocked it for you, even gods cannot save you by then. Sha Danan heard what she said, and suddenly remembered. He looked around but couldn't find that ugly, black fire stick. Saran looked at him, said lightly, You Esper was taken by your master. Sha Danan startled, said quietly, Yes. Then he couldn't help but ask, Master he Senior. Saran said, you were fainted for 5 days and nights. Your condition was stabilized at last night. Today morning, head Shishong of Peak of Widows sent a letter here, and asked your master to go there. So he should be in Peak of Widows now. Sha Danan slowly nodded. He did not know how he shall feel. He thought it is not a problem. But the fire stick that had been with him for 2 years suddenly left him for the first time. He felt a bit empty. Saran looked at him with a strange look, but then said, you just woke up, don't tire yourself, rest more. I instructed them to not bother you. The meals will let Bishu to bring them here. Sha Danan said, thank you Shiniong. Saran nodded, said, rest. I will tell Bishu to bring the meal to you. Then she turned and walked toward outside. When she was about to leave the room, Sha Danan called. Shiniong. Saran turned, said, what? Sha Danan looked at her, hesitated for a moment, then said, Shiniong, I want to ask, do you know what is the result of this contest for Bay of Dragon Head Peak? I was at Peak of Widows, did not have the time to ask him. Saran looked at him again, said, he entered the top 8, but lose to his Shishong Cavern. Sha Danan said, so he too thank you Shiniong. Saran shook her head, said, rest. Then turned and left. Sha Danan slowly lay down, looked at the ceiling, did not say anything. Jade on Peak of Widows, inside of Crystal Hall. Master Doyal Shen sat at the center, other 6 heads were also there. Other than that, there was no one in the hall. Everyone were silent. Master Doyal Shen lowered his eyes, looked at the black fire stick in his hand. Tien Shidi, Master Doyal Shen broke the silence, said, what do you think? Tien Bolis pondered for a moment, then said, when Sha Danan adopted, he did not have this item. Most likely because of coincidence and got this treasure by chance. Master Vasp Kalo said coldly, this stick can be a match with Aeolian Firmus, which is a divine weapon. But across the world, there are nothing mentioned about this stick. Tien Bolis, face darkened, said, how large Shunzhou is. There are numbers of treasures not known by the world. You and I are just frog in the well. Master Vasp Kalo was angry. He hadn't speak. Bamboo Height Master Shui Yu already said coldly, of course we are frog in the well. But this black stick had evil gas when it casted. It is clear that the stick is a evil item. Not sure why Tien Shishong did not see it. Tien Bolis snorted, said, so black gas is evil gas. With some red threads it's a evil item. If it's like that, I go back and paint my face black. Are you guys going to slay me like I am a evil heretic? Master Doyal Shen frowned, said, Tien Shidi, don't say such thing. Why calling yourself a evil heretic? Tien Bolis snorted, then turned his head away, not saying anything more. Master Doyal Shen sighed, putted the fire stick on the teapot, said, today ask you all to come is for discuss about Bamboo Peak disciple Sha Danan's weird esper that was used during 7 Peaks tournament. It has unknown history and extremely strong power. Also we are discussing about sending the top 4 disciples to Kongsang Mountain, Cave of Fangs to investigate. Other 3 disciples you have no comment, only Sha Danan. The more Tien Bolis heard the more angry he got. He was already confused about how Sha Danan's cultivation advanced so fast, and also felt suspicious about the fire stick. But now in Crystal Hall, not discussing other disciple but his. How could he not get mad? His face darkened, immediately rose up, said loudly, Head Shishong, what you want to do about it? Master Doyal Shen never thought Tien Bolis will have such great reaction. He was surprised. Sitting next to Tien Bolis, head of Peak of Wind Sang Shu Chong who normally had good relationship with him, pulled Tien Bolis' sleeve, said, Buyi, head Shishong did not say anything. You sit down first. Master Doyal Shen's face dimmed a little, said, Tien Shidi, this thing is really strange. I as a leader of this faction, will handle this impartially. You don't need to worry. The anger was still on Tien Bolis' face. But looked at Master Doyal Shen's face while Sang Shu Chong persuading him, he sat down in the end. Master Doyal Shen slowly said, Everyone, all of you have examined this stick. On the outside it looked normal, but in the inside there are savage spirit. But the most important point is, with our level of cultivation, we cannot control this object, while a disciple with only pure essence level 4 could use it. Why is that? Everyone include Tien Bolis were silent. They were the top cultivators, how would they not know the answer? It's just none wanted to say it out. But in the end Master Doyal Shen said, from what I think, this stick most likely is, blood smelted, item. Although they were prepared for it, the head's looks were still changed a little. The blood-smelted item is the owner putted his own blood into the esper while crafting. This type of art was really difficult, the esper's materials were extremely unique, and it's very dangerous. One mistake could lead to esper's vicious energy backfire and end up with painful death. Of course, if it's success, the power of esper must be extremely powerful. And one more good thing is that the esper connect with owner's blood. Only the one with the creator's blood could use it. But because it used blood as medium, the esper often contained savage energy. Legend said this type of blood-smelt art was passed down from ancient devils. The Falcon heretics passed down from generation to the next generation. But there were no famous blood-smelt esper, perhaps the way to craft it is so dangerous that even Falcon people did not dare to try. But, in a Jade disciple, there was such esper. Master Doyal Shen looked at Tien Boli's. Tien Boli's face was ghastly pale, slowly shoot up. Shishong, maybe you were right. But I got to say, Sha Danan is just 16 years old, how can he know the art of blood smelt? From the time he came, he never left the mountain for these 5 years. He did not even bring anything with him when he came. Where can he find such rare esper material? Master Vasp Kalo suddenly said coldly, perhaps he is sent by Falcon people and place him in Jadon, it's not weird. Tien Bolis was mad, said, if he really have the heart, then why he used it under the eyes of 1,000 people in 7-peak tournament? And beside, if he is really Falcon's spy, heh, Vasp Kalo Shishong, I am fear your bay isn't clean. Master Vasp Kalo was stabbed at the weakness, stood up, said angrily, what did you said? How can my Jing Yu compare to your stupid disciple? Tien Bolis, face darkened even more, snorted, peered at him, said, yes, my disciple is stupid. But I heard he entered the semifinal. I don't know what place did Vasp Kalo Shishong's prodigy Bay got. Vasp Kalo said angrily, he was just unfortunate to face his Shishong Kevern. If not because of they, why he can't enter semifinal? Then he paused, laughed coldly, but he is not lucky like someone else who rely on people to give up to advance, and still not feel shame talk about that. Tien Bolis shouted, so the battle between him and Anon is also luck. Master Vasp Kalo said, correct. Because he did not have the luck, that's why he lost so badly that he almost died. Tien Bolis was getting more angry, but his tongue was not smart, couldn't beat Vasp Kalo. His anger caused his face turned all red, what do you want? You want to see am I not as good as my reputation too? Master Vasp Kalo had no sign of stepping back. He stood up and said proudly, then I need to test Tien Shishong's flame spirit sword. Tien Bolis did not bother to say anything more. He stepped forth with right hand held sword mark. The air in the hall seemed frozen. Impudent, a loud hit. Master Doyal Shen's hand smacked on the teapoy. Face angry, he stood up, said, you two really pretending that this head of faction is head is it? Master Doyal Shen was at the position of the head for 300 years already. Highly honored, usually he was kind, but this time he was mad, it surprised Tien Bolis and Master Vasp Kalo. They stepped back and said quietly, yes, head Shishong please calm down. Master Doyal Shen looked at the two, the anger on his face took a while to be gone. After a ponder, he said, Tien Shidi. Tien Bolis stepped forth, said, head Shishong. Master Doyal Shen looked at him, said, anyway, the history of this black stick is unclear. If it's Falcon's item, and Sha Danan got something to do with Falcon, we cannot keep him. You understand? Tien Bolis lowered his head, quiet for a moment, then said, yes. Master Doyal Shen said again, Tien Shidi, I know you don't like it. But this is very important, we cannot take it lightly. You go back first, wait for Sha Danan to recover, then interrogate him thoroughly, and bring him back here. We are going to discuss about that afterward. How it is. Tien Bolis, face pale and then flushed. Stamped his feet, nodded, not saying anything and left. A whistle from the outside of the door, probably used sword to fly back. In the hall, Seng Shu Chong said to Master Doyal Shen, head Shishong, Tien Shishong's bamboo peak hard have such talented person, but with this thing happen. It is natural that he is not happy about that. Please don't mind him. Master Doyal Shen sighed, shook his head, of course I don't mind. I know Tien Shidi, I can trust him. Then, he seemed remembered something, turned to Bamboo Height Master Shui Yu Shimei, your female disciple and on these days. Shui Yu said lightly, thank you for head Shishong's worry. Shuiqi's body almost recovered. If not because Tian Boli's Shishang has a weird person and a strange esper, and consumed Shuiqi so many kai within one battle, she will not lose to that person. Vasp Kalo's face changed. Master Doyal Shen waved his hand, said, "Ya, the thing is the past, no need to argue it." Vasp Kalo and Shui Yu glared at each other, then turned their head away. Master Doyal Shen sighed, then turned his eyes on the teapot, seeing the black and ugly fire stick was laying there quietly.